Hello, dreamers of the cosmos. You've just arrived at the Sleepy Astronomer, where the stars are not rushed, and the universe unfolds gently like pages in a nighttime storybook. Here we wander slowly through galaxies, planets, and mysteries, not to solve them quickly, but to let them soothe our minds as we drift into rest. So settle in, breathe deeply, and let's begin our journey among the stars. When you look up on a clear night, the stars scatter themselves across the darkness like spilled salt upon a velvet cloth. Among them, one point of light flickers with a faint reddish hue. It does not shine as fiercely as Venus, nor as steadily as Jupiter. Instead, it glows with a subtle, almost ember-like warmth. Mars, the red planet. For as long as your species has had the gift of sight, that faint glow has been a companion, rising and setting, wandering across the sky in its long, slow dance. You feel its presence not as a distant ball of rock, but as an idea, a quiet beacon of possibility. Long before rockets, before telescopes, before science itself had a language, human beings looked at that tiny light and spun stories. To some, it was a god of war, red with imagined blood. To others, it was a fiery guardian, watching from afar. Its movement across the heavens was slow, patient, and mysterious, defying the fixed backdrop of stars. People wondered, what was it? Why did it wander? And slowly, as tools grew sharper and thoughts more precise, the dream of Mars began to take form. In the late 19th century, a man named Percival Lowell built an observatory in Arizona. Through his telescope, he thought he saw long lines etched across the Martian surface. Canals carved with purpose, like veins running across a body. He believed that an advanced civilization had built them, perhaps to carry water from polar ice caps to the dry equator. The idea spread like a spark. Newspapers, books, and lectures filled with images of Martians engineering survival on their desert world. You can almost feel the excitement of those times, the blending of an imagination and fragile science, weaving myth into the story of exploration. Though later discoveries revealed that these canals were illusions of the eye, the dream had already sunk its roots into culture. H.G. Wells imagined invaders from Mars in the War of the Worlds. Edgar Rice Burroughs painted a romance of red deserts and strange kingdoms. Children stared up at the night sky and wondered if someone might be staring back at them. Mars became not just a planet, but a mirror for human hopes and fears, a place where we projected our longing for connection, our fear of loneliness, and our hunger for adventure. As centuries turned, science grew steadier, its tools clearer. Telescopes grew larger, spacecraft flew closer. The Mariner probes of the 1960s finally revealed the truth. Mars was barren, a vast desert of rust-coloured rock swept by winds under a thin, choking sky. No canals, no cities, no grand civilizations. Instead, a quiet emptiness stretched across endless plains and craters. And yet, the dream did not die. Even stripped of its imagined canals, Mars remained magnetic. Its very silence invited us closer. Why? Perhaps because Mars is near, the closest planet that resembles Earth in its length of day, its seasons, its landscapes. Its mountains and valleys echo our own, yet they are harsher, older, untouched. To imagine living there is to imagine carrying Earth's story further, planting seeds of continuity in a new soil. You feel how this longing is not just about escape, but about survival, about meaning, about leaving behind something that endures beyond your fragile blue world. Then came the modern dreamers. Wernher von Braun, architect of the Saturn V rocket, once envisioned flotillas of spacecraft carrying people to Mars. Carl Sagan, with his gentle voice, spoke of terraforming, warming the frozen deserts, thickening the atmosphere, coaxing Mars into a second Earth. These ideas sounded impossibly vast, like lullabies sung to the future. But in them lived a steady pulse of hope, and now, in your own lifetime, the dream takes on new engines, new names. SpaceX, with its vast starship, speaks openly of a city on Mars. 1 million people, they say, living under domes, breathing air spun from machines, walking across the same plains where ancient rivers once carved their way. Elon Musk calls it not a fantasy, but a necessity. Humanity must become multi-planetary, he argues, to ensure survival against disasters, wars, or the quiet erosion of time. You may question his timelines, his urgency, his grand promises, but the vision pulls at something deep within you. Close your eyes and you can imagine it. A rocket standing tall on a coastal launch pad, gleaming silver in the sunlight. Inside, seats for hundreds, supplies for months. Systems designed not just to travel but to endure. The countdown whispers like a heartbeat. 10, 9, 8. Then the engines roar, fire pushing against gravity, carrying human dreams skyward. You feel the lift not just of metal, but of centuries of longing. In your mind you drift above Earth, leaving behind oceans and forests and cities. The blue fades into black and Mars waits ahead, a faint spark calling across millions of miles. The journey is long, but the destination is clear. A red horizon where humanity's footprints might one day press into dust. You breathe slowly, knowing that dreams like these take patience. Building a city on Mars is not a matter of years, but of lifetimes. Yet every step matters. Each rocket tested, each mission flown, each experiment out of soil and air. Dreams, after all, are not sudden. They are stitched together piece by piece until one day you find yourself standing where once you only imagined. You wonder why this longing feels so strong. Perhaps it is because Mars offers a mirror of your own fragility. On Earth you have oceans, air, abundance. On Mars you would have only what you bring, only what you build. Life there would be tenuous, dependent on machines, yet also precious, each breath an act of resilience. To dream of Mars is to remind yourself how rare and sacred home truly is. Still, the dream persists. Across art, science and imagination, Mars glows steadily in the night. Not as an enemy, not as a myth, but as an invitation, a gentle reminder that human beings are restless by nature, always reaching beyond, always listening for echoes in the silence. The red horizon is both a boundary and a promise, and so, as you drift deeper into thought, you let yourself feel the weight of history pressing gently against the present. From the myths of gods and canals, the promises of rockets and cities, Mars has always been with you, patient, waiting. Its light in the sky is faint, but steady, like a candle that refuses to go out. And with that light, you ask yourself, if Mars has been a dream for so long, what happens when the dream takes shape in steel and fire? Last lines, transition. The red horizon lingers in your thoughts, not just as a dream, but as a place you might one day reach. To go there, though, requires more than longing. It requires the tools to bridge the gulf. And so you begin to wonder, how do rockets become the bridges that carry humanity from Earth to Mars? When you stand on the edge of a coast at dawn, the air is cool and salted by the sea. You hear the gulls calling and the waves breaking, but above it all rises another sound, a countdown carried by loudspeakers, steady and unwavering. In those final moments, the air itself seems to hold its breath. A rocket, tall and gleaming, waits in silence. It is more than metal, more than fuel. It is a bridge, not of wood or stone, but of fire and courage, stretching between worlds. You watch as the engines ignite. Flame blossoms at the base. Thunder shakes the ground, and slowly, imperceptibly, the rocket begins to rise. It lifts not only steel, but every hope attached to it. The hope of crossing distances that once felt eternal. The hope of carrying life beyond the cradle of Earth. In that ascent, you glimpse the shape of humanity's longing. Rockets are not gentle things. They are violent, furious bursts of chemistry, forcing gravity to loosen its grip. Yet when you see them climb, the fury feels like grace, like wings unfolding. It is this paradox that makes rockets so entrancing. Raw destruction transformed into delicate escape. Each launch is a reminder that moving between planets requires not just science, but faith. Faith that fire can carry us into silence. SpaceX did not invent rockets, but it rekindled something that had grown quiet. In the mid-20th century, the Saturn V carried astronauts to the moon. For a brief time, rockets felt like stairways to the stars, but after those first small steps, the momentum waned. The rockets that followed became tools of orbit, satellites, and commerce. Useful, yes, but stripped of poetry. The dream of Mars seemed too distant, too heavy. Then, in the early 2000s, a company began building rockets with names like Falcon, Dragon, and Starship, names pulled from myth and fantasy, chosen not just for engineering but for imagination. At first, the world doubted. Rockets had always been the domain of governments, not startups. Yet one by one launches succeeded, failures taught lessons, and the bridges of fire grew sturdier. Think of Falcon 9, a rocket that does not vanish after flight but returns, landing upright on a platform at sea. The first time it happened, it felt unreal, like watching a candle balance on its flame. Reusability was not a trick, it was a transformation. A bridge that can be crossed again and again changes how far and how often humanity can travel, and each landing whispered a message: the road to Mars is being paved step by step. Then came Dragon, the spacecraft that carries people. Sleek, white and simple, it resembles not the cramped capsules of the past, but a vessel from dreams. When astronauts floated inside it for the first time, they looked less like pioneers and more like travelers boarding a futuristic ferry. Dragon did not reach Mars, but it carried the promise that one day ships like it could. And now the great ambition, Starship. Towering taller than any rocket before, designed to carry not a handful but 100, not just supplies but foundations for a city. Starship is not yet proven, its tests still fiery and imperfect, but even in its unfinished form, it feels like a sketch of the future. To look at it is to see possibility given shape. Imagine for a moment what Starship is meant to do. It will leave Earth, refuel in orbit, then fire again, carrying people and cargo across millions of kilometers. Months later, it will descend through the thin Martian atmosphere, landing upright on a plain of dust and stone. The very idea is staggering. A vehicle built on Earth, standing on Mars, waiting to be used again. You sense how radical that is. Not a disposable trip, but the beginning of continuity. Yet rockets are more than hardware. They are metaphors too. Each one that climbs skyward tells you that boundaries are not final, that the impossible can shift under persistence. You feel the rhythm of launches like the beating of a drum, marking progress not in days but in milestones. Every successful test is like a stone laid in a bridge, steadying the path to another world. But the bridge is not complete. Rockets solve only the first question: how to escape Earth's pull. The journey that follows is long, cold and dangerous. Propulsion must be efficient enough, shielding strong enough, patience long enough. Rockets open the gate, but what lies beyond is still daunting. And yet, without the gate, no journey begins. You think of how delicate it all is. Rockets require precision to the smallest detail, valves opening at the right instant, fuel mixed in perfect ratio, guidance systems aligning with celestial mechanics. One mistake and the bridge collapses in fire. Watching a launch, you realize that every ascent is not just triumph, but a risk accepted, carefully held. The calm voice of mission control, the slow arc of the rocket, the separation of stages, all of it is choreography balanced between disaster and wonder. And there is something else. Rockets are loud, fierce, undeniable. Yet beyond the roar lies silence. When the engines cut off, when the rocket glides in orbit, the noise falls away, leaving only the hush of space. That contrast feels almost spiritual. Fire carries you into silence, violence delivers you to peace. The bridge between worlds is not constant thunder, but a doorway to stillness. For you, sitting here imagining, rockets are not distant things, they are part of your story too. They remind you that humanity is restless, unwilling to remain within boundaries forever. Just as ancestors built boats to cross oceans or caravans to cross deserts, today you build rockets to cross the void. The shape is different, but the spirit is the same, curiosity carried by courage. Each launch invites you to wonder what comes next. When Starship one day carries settlers toward Mars, the bridge will no longer be symbolic. It will be real, threaded through black space, connecting the breath of Earth with the silence of another world. Those first travelers will carry seeds of Earth in their bodies, in their minds, in their supplies. They will step off the bridge not into comfort but into challenge, into the long night of interplanetary travel. But before you join them in that silence, you linger here, watching rockets rise, their trails of fire curve against the sky, fading slowly as they vanish into upper air. You close your eyes, and you still see the afterimage, a streak of light, a promise of continuity. Rockets are not just machines, they are the memory of what humanity has always done, reaching, crossing, beginning again. And as the flames fade into darkness, you are left with a question that settles deep within you. If the bridge can be built, What is it like to cross it, to drift in the long, slow sleep between Earth and Mars? Last lines transition. The roar of engines falls away, replaced by the stillness of space. The bridge is crossed, and now begins the quiet passage between worlds. You wonder how it feels to live in that silence in the long sleep of space travel. When the engines fall quiet, a hush spreads through the cabin. You are weightless, suspended not in air but in emptiness itself. The Earth has shrunk behind you into a blue marble, delicate and far away, while Mars is still only a distant ember in the dark. Between them stretches a gulf that feels endless, a road of silence. Here begins the true experience of space travel, not the roar of liftoff, but the long, slow drift through night. The journey to Mars is not a sprint. It is a slow voyage measured in months. Depending on the alignment of planets, it takes 6, 7, perhaps 9 months to make the crossing. Time here does not move as it does on Earth. There are no sunrises or sunsets outside your window, only the faint, unwavering glow of stars. Inside, clocks mark the passing of hours, but your body feels them differently. Days begin to blend, their rhythm softened into something dreamlike. Floating in weightlessness, you feel your body adjust. Muscles unused to strain begin to weaken, bones shed their density. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station exercise daily to hold against this quiet erosion, running on treadmills held down by straps, pedaling bikes that do not move, lifting resistance machines that keep the body awake. In this long sleep of space travel, motion becomes medicine. Without it, the body forgets the pull of gravity. Beyond the walls of your ship, radiation streams unseen. On Earth, you are shielded by atmosphere and magnetic field, a cocoon against cosmic rays. Here, between worlds, that shield is gone. Protons and heavier particles, flung across space from distant stars, tap gently against your craft, each one a reminder of vulnerability. Engineers line walls with water, polyethylene, or even hopes of using Martian fuel as protection. You imagine the ship like a cocoon, fragile yet determined, carrying life through a storm you cannot feel. The silence of deep space is both soothing and heavy. Without winds, waves, or the hum of Earth's life, the stillness presses close. Some find it peaceful, like floating in a vast meditation. Others feel the weight of isolation, the knowledge that no one could reach them quickly if something went wrong. Communication with Earth is still possible, but signals take minutes to travel, a delay that stretches conversations into echoes. You begin to feel how distance changes even the shape of human connection. And yet, within the ship, life continues. Astronauts eat carefully measured meals, packets of rehydrated food, or experiments in growing greens aboard. They drink water recycled endlessly, each sip wants breath, each breath wants vapor. The closed system becomes a reminder of balance. Nothing wasted, everything circulating like a miniature Earth held in metal walls. You sense how this rhythm is a rehearsal for Mars, where every resource must be treasured. Sleep itself becomes its own voyage. In weightlessness, you do not lie down but drift, tethered in a sleeping bag fixed to the wall. There is no pressure on your back, no up or down, dreams feel lighter, and waking feels like floating between two states of being. Some astronauts describe a kind of restlessness at first, but over weeks the body learns, sleep becomes a ritual, a way to surrender to the long hours of travel. Through small windows the view changes slowly. Earth fades to a pale star. Mars brightens, little by little, each week a touch more defined. Along the way the stars remain still, far too distant to show motion. The sense of scale overwhelms you. Even at thousands of kilometers per hour you move like a leaf adrift on a vast ocean. This is not the rushing pace of earthly life. This is patience stretched across the cosmos. In this patience lies a lesson. To travel to Mars you must accept slowness. You must learn to live in suspension, to embrace the quiet, to see time not as something lost, but as something expanded. Each day becomes a thread, woven into a tapestry of waiting. You read, you exercise, you work, you rest, and slowly the days accumulate. The journey itself becomes part of the destination, a meditation written in miles. And as you drift, you think about those who will come after. Perhaps future ships will be faster, using nuclear propulsion or ion drives, cutting the journey in half. Perhaps one day technology's now only sketches will make the voyage swift. But even then, the first steps require this long night, this willingness to cross the ocean slowly, trusting the ship, trusting the silence. The long sleep of space travel is not only physical, it is also emotional and spiritual. To leave Earth and sail for months through emptiness requires courage not in bursts, but in endurance. You carry your memories, your family, your planet in your mind, and you let the stars hold you. The distance itself becomes a teacher, reminding you that every world is precious, every connection fragile, every journey sacred. Close your eyes and you feel yourself floating. The ship hums softly, machines whisper in the background, but beyond that lies infinite quiet. The silence is not empty, it is full of possibility, of patience, of the steady approach towards something new. The long sleep is not wasted time, it is preparation, transformation, a space where humanity learns to live between worlds. And then, slowly, Mars begins to grow. From a red spark it swells into a small disk, then into a world with valleys and mountains faintly etched. The silence of the journey begins to lift, replaced by anticipation. The long sleep is ending, and soon another moment will arrive, the first sight of the Martian surface waiting beneath you. Last lines. Transition. The silence of travel fades as the red world sharpens before your eyes. You drift closer, wondering how it will feel to touch down on a planet that greets you with silence and dust. The ship shudders as it descends, cutting into the thin veil of Martian air. You feel a soft pull, weaker than Earth's gravity, but steady enough to remind you that you are arriving. Outside the window, the horizon spreads wide and red, a desert of endless plains painted in rust. The long sleep of travel gives way to the first breath of arrival. You are no longer between worlds. You are falling gently toward another one. Mars welcomes you not with sound, but with silence. There are no crashing waves, no bird calls, no wind strong enough to roar. The air is too thin, just 1% of Earth's density. Even when breezes stir, they carry little weight, like whispers barely heard. Yet dust rides on those whispers, fine grains lifted high, tinting the sky a soft butterscotch. As the ship lowers itself on plumes of fire, the dust swirls in slow spirals, as if the planet is exhaling at your presence. You touch down, and for a moment there is stillness. The engines cut, the ship settles, and a profound quietness stretches around you. Then comes the thought that drifts into your mind like a tide. You are standing on another world. Stepping outside is a ritual of preparation. You seal your suit, test the oxygen, check the pressure. The door opens with a metallic sigh and light pours in. Mars is dimmer than Earth, its sun more distant, but the glow feels steady, soft. You place one boot into the dust, and it compresses beneath you with a dry crunch. For the first time, human weight presses into Martian soil. The ground stretches in colours of rust, cinnamon, and burnt orange. Rocks scatter the plains, some rounded, some jagged, each one untouched for millions of years. In the distance rise mountains higher than Earth's Everest, valleys deeper than any canyon at home. Olympus Mons, vast and slumbering, towers on the horizon like a frozen volcano of dreams. Valles Marineris yawns wide, carved by forces beyond your scale. Everywhere you look, the land feels ancient, preserved in silence. But beauty here is harsh. The air cannot fill your lungs. It is mostly carbon dioxide, thin and sharp. Without your suit, you would suffocate in minutes. The temperature, too, resists you. Nights sink to minus 80 degrees Celsius, a cold that bites deeper than any winter on Earth. Even at noon, warmth is fleeting, and shadows stretch long. This is a world not made for comfort, but for endurance. The soil, called regolith, carries its own dangers. Mixed within it are perchlorates, salts toxic to human bodies. To touch Mars is to remember that it does not yield easily. Every rock, every grain of dust must be studied, cleaned, or transformed before it can serve as foundation for life. Yet within those grains lies promise too. Iron-rich dust that could be shaped into bricks, soil that with work could be coaxed into growth. The very challenges of Mars are also its gifts, waiting to be understood. As you walk, you notice the light itself. The sky is not blue, but tinted pink and beige, colours born of dust scattering sunlight differently than on Earth. At sunset, the colours reverse, and the sun dips in a soft bluish halo. A quiet inversion of what you know. It is both familiar and alien, like a dream remembered from another life. You feel the strangeness settle into you, not as fear but as awe. Mars has no oceans, no forests, no rivers to sing. Yet once, long ago, it may have. Scientists have traced dry channels where water once flowed, discovered minerals that form only in wetness, found ice caps at the poles holding frozen blue. Billions of years ago, this barren desert might have echoed with rivers, shallow seas, perhaps even the chemistry of life. To stand here is to stand in a place with two faces, what it is now and what it once was. You kneel in the dust, and for a moment you imagine those past waters, lapping where now only wind moves. The planet feels like a memory, a place caught between what it has lost and what it might one day become again, if life takes root here anew. Every sense tells you that you are a visitor. The silence does not answer back, the ground does not soften beneath your feet, the air does not greet your lungs, yet still you feel drawn to it, as if the very resistance deepens your resolve. Mars is not inviting, but it is honest. It does not pretend to be gentle, and perhaps that honesty makes the dream of living here even more profound. As you stand in your suit, gazing across the horizon, you realize that this is what makes Mars different from all the other places in the night sky. It is not the largest, nor the brightest, nor the easiest, but it is close enough to touch, challenging enough to inspire, and empty enough to let humanity write a new chapter. The rusted world does not offer gifts, but it offers possibility. The dust clings to your boots, fine and persistent. It will cling to machines, to habitats, to every crevice it finds. Settlers will wrestle with it daily, sweeping it, filtering it, designing around it. Yet that dust is also what makes Mars red, what gives it the glow that first captured your ancestors' eyes. The same substance that hinders is also what inspires. You see how beauty and hardship here are woven together, inseparable. You lift your gaze once more to the horizon. The planet stretches quiet and vast, with no sound but your own breath echoing in your helmet. You take another step, and another. Each footprint is small, but each carries a weight of meaning. To walk here is to begin, to write the first lines of a story that has waited for centuries. Mars greets you not with warmth, but with truth. It is empty. It is harsh. It is beautiful. And as you stand in its silence, you feel both a stranger and a builder, both an intruder and a dreamer. The rusted world will not welcome you easily, but it will hold you if you are willing to adapt. Last lines, transition. And as you breathe recycled air inside your suit, one thought lingers. This planet has no breath of its own. To live here, you must learn how to make air where there is none, how to weave oxygen out of silence. The first truth you meet on Mars is silence. Not just silence of sound, but silence of breath. You step into the world and you know at once, this air cannot hold you. It is thin, made almost entirely of carbon dioxide. To breathe it directly would be to starve your lungs. For every 100 molecules around you, only one is oxygen. That is not enough to sustain even a single heartbeat. And so on this planet, life becomes an act of translation, transforming what is here into what is needed. You imagine future settlers not as mere travellers, but as alchemists coaxing breath from stone and sky. Every breath will be engineered, woven by machines, guarded by walls. Survival here is not passive, it is built. Inside your habitat, the air is different. Machines hum gently, pulling in carbon dioxide and water vapour, splitting them into their elemental pieces. Oxygen is stored, circulated, made available for every inhale. Carbon is returned to soil, used as fuel, or held in waiting. You live inside a cocoon, a bubble where the impossible is made possible, where lungs can rest without fear. You think of MOXIE, the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, a small golden box carried aboard NASA's Perseverance rover. On the dusty plains of Jezero Crater, IE breathed before you did. It drew in Martian air, heated it, pressed it, and split it apart, releasing oxygen molecule by molecule. Each run produced only enough oxygen for a human to breathe for 10 minutes. Small, yes, but also profound. For the first time, Mars yielded air. This is how it begins. Small machines, proof of concept, whispers of what one day might expand into entire farms of air. You imagine rows of reactors glowing softly in the Martian dusk, their pipes feeding habitats, greenhouses, and life. Like silent gardens, they cultivate not leaves or flowers, but oxygen itself, the most invisible and essential of all harvests. The atmosphere outside remains hostile, a thin veil that lets radiation seep through, that steals away heat. But inside your suit, inside your dome, oxygen presses softly against your skin, flows into your blood, fills your body with calm. You notice how precious each inhale feels when you know it has been crafted with care. On Earth, you rarely think about air. Here you treasure it like water, like fire, like love. Mars teaches you this: to breathe is no longer free. It is an achievement, a product of design. And perhaps in this way it reminds you of Earth, how miraculous it is to have a planet that gives you air without asking anything in return. Here, you understand fragility more deeply, the difference between gift and necessity. There are other dreams, too, about how to give Mars a breath of its own. Some imagine terraforming, releasing stored carbon dioxide from the poles, thickening the atmosphere, warming the planet until liquid water flows and oxygen-making plants can spread. But such visions belong to centuries, not decades. For now, breath must come in smaller, gentler steps. Domes of glass, habitats of metal and ice, sealed greenhouses where plants exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen. Each step is modest, but each carries the weight of survival. Imagine walking through one of these greenhouses. The walls are transparent, curved against the sky. Inside, rows of plants stretch toward artificial lamps, their leaves wide, their roots anchored in hydroponic beds. The air is moist and warm, rich with oxygen. You inhale, and for a moment you forget that beyond the glass lies a world where breath cannot exist. The plants are companions, silent allies who breathe for you as you breathe for them. The partnership is ancient, carried across planets, reimagined in alien soil. Breathing here is not just science, it is rhythm. It is ritual. Every machine checked, every valve maintained, every leaf cared for becomes part of a daily devotion. To neglect it would be to court death, to nurture it is to affirm life. And so settlers will grow attentive, careful, reverent toward the very act of breathing. At night in the habitat you lie down and feel the air moving softly through vents. It is not natural, but it is steady. The sound is a lullaby of fans and filters, a constant reminder that you are alive because the systems hold. Sleep comes gently in this artificial atmosphere, and you dream of oceans, forests, breezes that no longer belong to you but still linger in memory. And perhaps you think this dependence is not a weakness but a teacher. Mars asks humanity to slow down, to pay attention, to remember that life is fragile, that air is sacred. On Earth, you may walk through a forest and forget to notice the gift of every breath. On Mars, you will notice always. You will know the worth of a single inhale, a single exhale. Breathing on a world without breath is not a defeat. It is a triumph, a declaration that life can extend itself, adapt, create conditions where none exist. In every lungful of air inside a Martian habitat is the story of ingenuity, persistence, and longing. You breathe and you carry not only oxygen, but the weight of centuries of dreaming. And still, you know this is only the beginning. Oxygen alone does not make a home. To live, you will also need food, grown patiently under lights, nurtured with water drawn from ice. The next step is not just to breathe, but to eat, to coax green life into a world painted red. Last lines, transition. As oxygen fills your lungs, you feel gratitude, but also hunger stirring within. To remain here, you must not only breathe, but also learn how to grow food beneath the crimson ski hole. When you step outside on Mars, you see only rust-coloured dust stretching for miles. The land is absent, frozen, resistant. Nothing grows in this soil. Not yet. And yet inside your mind you picture something different. Green leaves unfurling, stems reaching upward. The small miracle of life carried into a world that has forgotten how to nurture it. Food on Mars is not just necessity, it is symbol, it is comfort. It is a reminder that even in harshness, life can still bloom. On Earth, food surrounds you. Forests, fields, oceans, abundance is woven into the landscape. You seldom pause to think of how extraordinary it is that a planet feeds you without asking for repayment. But on Mars, nothing will come without effort. Here, a single tomato becomes a treasure, a potato, a celebration, a sprig of lettuce, a triumph of patience and skill. The first gardens on Mars will not be like Earth's gardens. They will not sway in breezes or soak in rain. Instead, they will glow under artificial lights, sealed inside pressurized domes or underground chambers. Water will drip through hydroponic systems, delivering nutrients directly to roots. Plants will live not in soil but in careful designs, their growth monitored, measured, guided. Each leaf will be both fragile and resilient, growing in defiance of an environment that rejects it. You imagine walking through such a greenhouse. Outside, the cold desert stretches silent and endless. Inside, humidity kisses your skin, light warms your face, and the smell of earth and chlorophyll fills the air. The contrast is breathtaking. To step through the door is to step from survival into sanctuary. Mars offers no natural soil for farming. Its regolith, rich in iron and toxic perchlorates, cannot nurture plants without cleansing and preparation. Scientists on Earth have studied Martian soil simulants, mixing volcanic ash, basalt, and salts to mimic what lies on that red planet. They have tried growing potatoes, radishes, beans. The results are humble but promising. Plants can take root if the poisons are removed, if nutrients are added, if water is carefully given. Every experiment is a rehearsal for the day when greenhouses on Mars hum quietly with photosynthesis. But it is not only about calories. Food is memory. A bite of fresh fruit can remind settlers of home, of orchards and gardens left behind. Sharing a meal becomes a ritual of community, a way to soften the edges of isolation. Imagine a crew gathered around a table inside a habitat, passing bowls of salad grown meters away, tasting the work of their own hands. Laughter rises, stories are told, and for a moment Mars feels less alien. To grow food here is to stitch a thread of normalcy into the fabric of survival. Each harvest whispers, "We can belong." You think too of the history of food in exploration. Sailors once carried dried meat and biscuits, and scurvy followed until citrus was discovered as a cure. Polar explorers rationed tins of pemmican and prayed for enough fuel to melt snow. Astronauts in the early space age ate paste squeezed from tubes, bland and joyless. Progress came slowly: freeze-dried meals, vacuum-sealed packs, small packets of spice for flavour. Yet still, the absence of fresh food was felt. On the International Space Station, astronauts rejoice when a supply ship brings apples or oranges. On Mars, the first cucumber grown and eaten will be remembered as more than food. It will be history. In the rhythm of tending plants, settlers will find peace. Watering, pruning, harvesting, these are meditations, ways of grounding the mind in a place that otherwise feels unmoored. Watching leaves curl toward light is a lesson in patience, in trust. The plants do not hurry, and neither can you. They grow slowly, steadily, just as a settlement will grow. Technology may add new layers to this. Engineers dream of bioreactors growing protein-rich algae, vats of yeast producing bread-like nutrients, insects cultivated as efficient sources of protein. These may lack romance, but they hold practicality. Mars will demand variety, a diet balanced not by preference but by necessity. Yet within this practicality lies creativity. Recipes will adapt, flavors will emerge, cultures will evolve around what is possible to grow and share. Still, you imagine that in every greenhouse someone will tuck away seeds not for survival but for joy. A flower perhaps blooming in the corner, a strawberry plant, sweet and small. Not because they are essential, but because they remind you that life is not only about endurance, it is about beauty, about small pleasures that feed the spirit. Food beneath the crimson sky is both science and poetry. Each plant is a story of care, each meal a reminder of connection. To grow food here is to claim a kind of victory, not dominance over Mars, but partnership, an agreement that life can persist where once there was none. And as you breathe in the humid air of that imagined greenhouse, you know that this is more than survival. It is continuity. It is humanity carried forward in roots and leaves, in the simple act of planting and tending. Outside, the planet remains cold and silent. Inside, green reaches for light. The two worlds meet here, in a fragile balance of steel and soil, technology and biology. To eat on Mars is to weave yourself into that balance, to say, we can live here, not just visit. Last lines, transition. As the taste of imagined harvest lingers, you realize that plants cannot grow without water, and so your thoughts drift deeper toward the hidden ice beneath the dust, waiting to be found. When you stand on Mars, you see no oceans, no rivers, no lakes glittering beneath the sun. The surface is dry, dusted with rust, painted in endless shades of red and orange. But beneath that silence lies something precious, something hidden, water. Not flowing freely, not rushing in streams, but resting in frozen layers, in buried glaciers, in grains of soil that cling to tiny crystals of ice. Water is the thread that ties all life together. On Earth, it falls from skies, runs in rivers, gathers in seas. You take it for granted, forgetting how extraordinary it is that the planet provides it so freely. On Mars, you cannot forget. Each drop must be found, extracted, guarded, and cherished. Here, water is not background, 'tis survival itself. Scientists have known for decades that Mars holds water. The polar ice caps gleam white, shining like jewels against the rust-coloured land. Seasonal streaks on slopes hint at briny trickles that might once have flowed. Radar scans from orbit reveal hidden reservoirs, layers of ice beneath dust. Mars may be dry on the surface, but beneath it whispers of abundance waiting to be unlocked. Imagine drilling into the regolith, slowly lowering equipment until it touches frozen ground. A core sample comes up, brittle and white, ice preserved for millions of years. Melt it carefully, filter it, and suddenly you hold in your hand something extraordinary. Liquid water, ready to drink. A glass raised in such a place is more than refreshment. It is a toast to possibility. Water on Mars will be used for more than thirst. It will be the lifeblood of greenhouses, feeding plants that feed people. It will flow through pipes, cooling machines, balancing systems. Split into hydrogen and oxygen, it will become fuel for rockets and air for lungs. Every litre will serve multiple purposes, recycled again and again, until its journey ends only to begin anew. You imagine a settlement where water hums through hidden veins, pipes run under floors, tanks sit gleaming under domes, condensation gathers on walls and is returned to reservoirs. Nothing is wasted, every drop is measured, accounted for, respected. Even sweat and breath will be captured, filtered, and brought back into circulation. A sip of water may once have been vapour in the air, ice beneath soil, or tears wiped away. Here, water is not lost, it is reborn. This reverence changes how you see it. On Earth, water can seem endless. On Mars, it is sacred. Settlers will learn to drink mindfully, to notice the coolness on their tongues, to understand that every swallow carries work, technology, patience. In this way, water becomes not only physical but spiritual. It binds the community in awareness and gratitude, yet finding it will not be simple. Dust storms can bury supplies, perch laureates in the soil can taint its purity, extraction requires energy that is always scarce. Water is present, but never given freely. It must be coaxed from the land, respected as both challenge and gift. Perhaps this struggle is part of what will shape life here. Survival teaches reverence. In quiet moments you think of Earth's oceans, vast, endless, rolling with tides and storms. How strange it is that such abundance exists in one place, while here the same element hides beneath rock, locked away like treasure. You feel how fragile and rare water truly is in the universe. The oceans of Earth are miracles you will never take lightly again. But even in scarcity, Mars holds enough. Scientists estimate that beneath its poles lies ice that, if melted, could flood the planet in a shallow sea. Vast stores are locked away in layers of permafrost. For settlers, it will not be about finding oceans, but about learning to gather what is there, patiently and sustainably. You imagine walking to a well inside a habitat, drawing water into a container. Around you, people treat it with quiet respect, as if each droplet were a jewel. Meals are prepared carefully, dishes washed with minimal waste, plants watered with precision. A child learns that spilling water is no small accident. It is like losing time, losing energy, losing life, and perhaps in that respect, Mars teaches something Earth has forgotten, that water is finite, fragile, deserving of care, that abundance should not dull gratitude, that survival rests not on wealth or power, but on the humble gift of liquid flowing clear and cold. The settlers will carry this awareness forward. As the city grows, systems will expand, reservoirs, recycling plants, greenhouses nourished by melted ice, and with each advancement, the settlement will breathe easier, not because water becomes common, but because its rhythm becomes steady. The hidden blue beneath the dust will become the quiet heartbeat of life. At night, you picture ice glittering under starlight, locked away beneath the surface, silent, patient, waiting for hands to find it. You imagine the sound of a drop falling into a cup, echoing softly inside a dome. That sound is more than water. It is survival, community, hope. It is the reminder that life, fragile and determined, can flourish even here. And as you hold that thought, you know that water alone cannot shelter you. It feeds you, sustains you, fuels you, but it cannot shield you. To live here fully, you will need walls, domes, and homes. You will need to build. Last lines, transition. The hidden blue beneath the dust keeps you alive, but water cannot stand alone. Shelter must rise from this red ground, cities of dust and light built against the silence. On Earth, cities grow almost without notice. Streets wind outward, buildings rise, lights spread across valleys and coasts until they blur together in a glow seen from orbit. But on Mars, a city begins with silence and emptiness. There are no trees to cut, no rivers to bridge, no neighborhoods to inherit. There is only dust, rock, and the patience to transform them into something that can hold life. The first shelters are not grand, they are small, compact, functional, their habitats brought from Earth, inflated domes, modules sealed tight. Each one is like a seed planted in foreign soil. They are temporary, fragile, meant only to give the first settlers a chance to breathe, to sleep, to endure the cold. But seeds grow. One by one they multiply, connecting with tunnels and shared chambers, and slowly the outline of a settlement begins to take shape. Mars offers its own raw materials, if you know how to use them. The soil, or regolith, is rich in minerals. With heat and pressure, it can be fused into bricks strong enough to build walls. Engineers dream of 3D printers crawling across the surface, laying layer upon layer of Martian brick, raising protective domes like giant shells. What once seemed lifeless dust becomes the foundation of homes. Ice too has a role. Transparent domes of frozen water, thick and curved, could act as walls, letting in sunlight while blocking radiation. Imagine standing beneath such a dome, light scattering blue through frozen walls, while plants grow in warmth below. The very substance that sustains you as drink also shields you as shelter, carrying multiple lives in a single form. Metal, brought from Earth or mined from Martian rock, frames the structures. Solar panels spread like metallic petals across the plains, gathering what light the thin sky allows. Inside the settlement, cables hum, machines whir, and heaters glow. Each element works not in isolation but in harmony, a delicate choreography of survival. You walk through the beginnings of such a city in your imagination. Pathways curve between connected domes. Airlocks stand like gateways, each one carefully sealed. The sound of a boots on metal floors echoes softly, reminding you of the emptiness outside. Yet within, voices mingle, laughter rises, the smell of meals drifts. The settlement begins to feel less like machinery and more like a neighborhood. Still, every wall matters. Outside, radiation pours from the sun and stars. Without thick protection, it seeps into bodies, damaging cells. Inside, pressure must be maintained, for one crack could mean disaster. Buildings here are not just structures, they are guardians, protectors against an environment that would not forgive mistakes. Each wall is checked, repaired, reinforced, as if cared for like a living companion. And as the city grows, beauty begins to appear. Murals painted on dome interiors, gardens arranged along corridors, lights hung in communal halls. Even in the harshest places, people shape beauty. It is not enough to survive. humanity seeks to belong. The settlement becomes more than a shelter. It becomes a reflection of its inhabitants' spirit. You think of cities on Earth, each shaped by the landscape around them. Venice rises from water, its canals winding like veins. Cairo spreads along the Nile, nourished by its river. New York towers skyward, pressed by an island's limits. So too will Martian cities be shaped by their land, domes clustered near ice deposits, tunnels dug into cliffs for protection, neighborhoods built with the rhythm of dust storms in mind. Mars will write its influence into their very design. But unlike earthly cities, here every addition is deliberate. Nothing is wasted, nothing is accidental. To build on Mars is to make choices with precision, guided not by convenience but by necessity. And in that necessity there is clarity. The city grows slowly, patiently, as each structure is tested, reinforced, adapted. In time, the small seed of a settlement may bloom into something vast. Imagine domes stretching across a valley, tunnels connecting districts, towers rising not for grandeur but for efficiency. Streets may be corridors, parks may be enclosed gardens, skylines may curve under transparent shells. At night, the city glows softly, a constellation on the surface of a silent planet. From orbit, it appears as a cluster of lights, a beacon of persistence shining against the darkness. To live here is to accept limits. The city cannot expand without energy, without water, without food. Growth will be slow, fragile, sometimes halting. But perhaps that slowness is its strength. Each new building is celebrated, each new room a triumph, each shared hall a reminder that progress has been carved from stone and dust. You pause and imagine walking through one of these future neighborhoods. Children play inside domes, their laughter echoing against curved walls. Neighbors gather in communal kitchens, sharing meals grown beneath artificial light. Scientists work in laboratories, engineers adjust life support systems, artists sketch the alien landscape from behind windows. Life here is not easy, but it is real and it is shared. Mars will not bend easily. It will resist, challenge, test, but slowly, through dust and light, through patience and persistence, a city will rise. Not built overnight, not sprawling with ease, but steady and deliberate. Each wall will whisper of resilience, each dome will hold stories, each street will remind you that humanity has extended its reach. And as the city grows, so too will identity. What does it mean to be a Martian, born under domes, raised in tunnels, surrounded by dust and silence? A city is not only a place of shelter, but a cradle of culture. Here, in these fragile yet enduring walls, a new culture will take root, shaped by necessity, but blossoming into something unique. The first cities of Mars will be humble, small, fragile. But like seeds, they hold within them the promise of forests. Dust and light will become brick and window, home and hall, laughter and memory. And one day, when you stand within such a city, you will know that this place once seemed impossible. Last lines, transition. And yet, even as walls rise and domes glow, you realize that a city is not made only of stone or steel. It is made of people, of voices and bonds of the fragile heart of community. The walls of a Martian city may shield you from radiation. The domes may hold warmth against the cold. The machines may weave oxygen and recycle water. But none of these alone makes a city alive. What transforms a cluster of habitats into something more is the presence of people gathered together, leaning on one another. A city is not just structure, it is story. It is community. On Mars, this truth becomes even clearer. Each settler arrives knowing that survival depends not only on technology, but on trust. One mistake can threaten many, one success can uplift all. Here, independence is limited, and interdependence becomes essential. Neighbours are not optional companions, they are lifelines. Imagine the first handful of settlers sharing meals inside a small dome. Their voices rise and fall in conversation, laughter echoing against curved walls. In the corner, a guitar strums a simple tune. Someone shares a memory of Earth, a childhood by the sea, a favourite recipe, a story of trees swaying in wind. Around the table, these fragments weave together into something larger. They weave community. There is fragility in this. Distance from Earth stretches not only across space, but across time. Messages take minutes to travel, conversations with loved ones broken by delay. The absence of immediacy deepens the need for connection close at hand. You learn to lean more heavily on those around you, to accept their flaws, to appreciate their presence. On Mars, friendship is not luxury but necessity. Communities here will grow slowly. At first, they will be small, a dozen, perhaps 100 people. Everyone will know one another, every face familiar, every role visible. The mechanic who repairs the airlock, the doctor who checks blood, or the botanist who tends the lettuce. Each role carries weight, each person becomes irreplaceable in ways seldom felt on Earth. Yet with this closeness comes challenge. Disagreements may feel sharper, tempers may flare more quickly. There is little space to withdraw, little privacy in confined habitats. To remain whole, the community must learn patience, forgiveness, understanding. Here, emotional resilience is as vital as physical strength. A quarrel left unresolved could echo loudly in corridors too small to ignore it. This fragility is balanced by strength. Hardship, after all, binds people together. The settlers share the same dangers, the same dreams, the same sense of being far from home. Each dawn brings with it the knowledge that survival is collective. The city breathes not because of one, but because of all. That shared awareness shapes identity, weaving threads of belonging across every meal, every task, every conversation. Children born here will never know Earth directly. For them, community will not be an adaptation but a birthright. They will learn to walk in low gravity, to play inside domes, to see neighbours as extended family. Their memories will be shaped not by oceans or forests but by corridors and gardens of light. And within them, the fragile heart of community will beat naturally as part of who they are. Art will grow alongside this. Songs sung in communal halls, stories told before sleep, paintings of the red horizon hung in living quarters. These expressions will become shared memory, carrying emotional weight greater than any machine. They remind you that life is more than function. It is meaning, joy, sorrow, wonder. A city without art would feel empty, even if its walls stood strong. In times of difficulty, the community will be tested. A power failure, a dust storm that lasts for weeks, an accident in a greenhouse, these events will press people together, forcing them to hold one another steady. Fear will exist, but so will courage. Each trial overcome will not only strengthen the settlement systems, but deepen its bonds. Out of struggle, trust grows. Out of trust, community flourishes. And perhaps, in this closeness, settlers will rediscover something Earth has lost. On Earth, cities sprawl vast, filled with millions of strangers. Connection is possible, but anonymity is common. On Mars, anonymity cannot exist. Each person matters, each voice counts. Communities here may feel more like villages of old, small, intimate, interwoven. In this way, Mars becomes not only a frontier, but a return. You imagine standing in a communal hall listening to voices lifted together. Not many voices, but enough. Their echoes fill the dome, bouncing from wall to wall, weaving sound into something larger than individuals. You feel the warmth of belonging. You understand that even in the harshest place, people can create home, not through bricks or machines, but through care for one another. This is the fragile heart of community. Fragile because it must be nurtured, because it can be wounded, because it depends on trust. Yet it is also the strongest thing settlers carry. It is what makes survival more than endurance. It is what transforms life into living. And as the city grows, so too will its stories. Families will form, friendships will deepen, traditions will emerge. Birthdays celebrated under domes, holidays reimagined with Martian flavours, rituals of gratitude for water, for food, for air. Each tradition is a thread weaving identity from survival. The fragile heart beats quietly, steadily beneath the domes and walls. Without it, the city would crumble, no matter how strong its engineering. With it, the city can endure, adapt, grow. For in the end, what settlers build is not only a city of dust and light, but a city of people bound by care, by trust, by love. Last, transition. And yet, even as the community grows stronger, time itself presses in with its own rhythm. On Mars, the days are longer, the nights stretch differently, and life must learn to move with the rhythm of Martian time. Time is a quiet companion. On Earth, you know its rhythm well. Days measured by the turning of the planet, nights that follow predictably, weeks and months unfolding like a song you have always known. But on Mars, time plays in a different key. The day, called a sol, lasts 24 hours and 39 minutes. A little longer, just enough to change how you live. At first, the difference feels small. What is 39 minutes in the vastness of a day? Yet over weeks, over months, you begin to notice. Sleep drifts, meals shift, work stretches. Your body, tuned to Earth's cycle, begins to hum to a slightly altered beat. You wake when the sun has not yet risen, or you lie down when it still hangs above the horizon. Slowly, you must learn to listen to Mars itself, to let its slower turning become your clock. The sun on Mars is more distant, shining smaller, dimmer, yet subsequently steady. It rises in a sky tinged with pink and beige, climbing slowly across the heavens. At midday, its light filters through thin atmosphere, softer than on Earth, casting shadows that feel long and delicate. When evening comes, the sun dips into blue twilight, a reversal of Earth's colours. Sunsets here are not crimson but cool, edged with the shades of azure. The difference marks the hours in ways both familiar and strange. Inside habitats, settlers may choose artificial cycles. Lights brighten at morning, dim at night, keeping the body close to Earth's rhythm. Yet beyond the walls, Mars whispers its own tempo. Scientists and engineers working with rovers on the surface have already experienced this. On Earth, mission teams shift their schedules to follow the sol, rising and resting 39 minutes later each day. They live on Mars time, their clocks out of step with the rest of humanity. It is disorienting, yet also intimate, a way of syncing with another world. You imagine how this will feel in a settlement. Perhaps schedules will drift gently with the sol, or perhaps people will cling to Earth hours within their domes, letting the difference pass unnoticed. Over time, a new rhythm may emerge, one that belongs neither wholly to Earth nor Mars, but to those who live between. Children born here may never know the dissonance. To them, a sol will simply be a day, natural as breathing. The lengthened day shapes work and rest alike. A farmer tending plants in a greenhouse will notice growth cycles adjusting, light periods shifting. Engineers may plan tasks with a little more time, stretching each schedule just beyond Earth's measure. Even sleep may lengthen slightly, the body surrendering to deeper rest. These small adjustments accumulate, weaving a rhythm unique to this place. There is something soothing about this slower beat. Mars does not rush. It turns patiently, inviting you to slow down as well. On Earth, hours often feel hurried, pressed by demands and distractions. Here, minutes stretch gently like ripples across still water. You feel the pace in your breathing, in your steps, in the way you notice details around you. A sol gives you more space to be present, more space to rest. Yet time here carries weight too. Dust storms can blot out sunlight for days or weeks, stretching the sense of night endlessly. Power reserves must last, patience must deepen. In such times, you measure not by sunrise, but by endurance, by the hum of life support systems, by the steady flow of oxygen and warmth. Time becomes less about the clock and more about resilience. Seasons on Mars are longer as well. The year stretches almost twice as long as Earth's, shaped by its orbit around the sun. Summers and winters last for many months, each one marked by shifting winds and changing light. Settlers will grow used to these long arcs, planning harvests and journeys not by weeks but by vast unfolding seasons. The rhythm of life here expands, asking for patience, for vision beyond the immediate. And in the quiet of night, Mars offers a sky that redefines time altogether. Stars glitter sharp and steady, unblurred by the thick atmosphere. Phobos and Deimos, Mars' small moons, race quickly overhead. Phobos, especially, rises and sets multiple times in a single sol, moving so swiftly it feels like a reminder that not all rhythms are slow. Watching its hurried path, you feel the contrast between the planet's patience and its moon's haste. Time on Mars is not uniform. It is a blend of slow and fast, of stillness and motion. Living here, you realize that time is not fixed. It is shaped by where you are, by how your world spins, by the sun's distance, by the cycles you choose to honor. Time is not just numbers on a clock, but experience woven into the body. On Earth, your rhythm is inherited. On Mars, it must be learned. And perhaps this is the quiet gift of Martian days. They remind you that time can be flexible, that life adapts, that even the smallest shift can open new ways of being. To live here is to embrace patience, to find peace in difference, to accept that your days will not align perfectly with the planet you left behind. The rhythm of Martian days is a lullaby all its own, longer, softer, slower. Each sunrise is a reminder of continuity, each sunset a reminder of change. You breathe into this rhythm, letting it carry you, letting it teach you. And yet, as steady as this rhythm feels, survival here requires more than harmony with time. It demands energy, power to fuel machines, to light domes, to heat habitats, to sustain life. Time may set the pace, but energy provides the heartbeat. Without it, no city, no community, no dream can last. Last lines transition. As the soul lengthens and the sky turns blue at sunset, you feel the calm of a new rhythm. But beneath that calm rises a question. How will a city draw the energy it needs to survive beneath this pale sun? A city on Mars does not breathe without energy. Every light that glows inside a habitat, every pump that circulates air, every heater that pushes back against the cold depends on steady power. On Earth, you seldom notice this. Electricity hums invisibly, arriving at the flip of a switch, the turn of a knob. But on Mars, energy is never invisible. It is precious, constant, deliberate, the quiet heartbeat of survival. The sun is the first and most obvious source. Its light, though weaker than on Earth, still shines across the red deserts, still offers its gift of warmth and radiance. Settlers spread solar panels across the plains, wide sheets of glass and silicon angled toward the sky. They look like metallic flowers blooming in the barren field. Day after day they sip sunlight and transform it into electricity, feeding batteries that hold energy for the long night. But Mars does not always cooperate. Its sky is thin yet dusty, and storms can rise without warning, spreading fine particles that dim the sun for days or even weeks. During such storms, solar panels grow less efficient, their power dropping with each swirling gust. Energy reserves must carry the settlement through. Batteries hum quietly, rationing their stores, lights dimming slightly to conserve. You learn quickly that sunlight here is not guaranteed. It must be partnered with something steadier. That steadier source is nuclear power. Small reactors, designed for safety and longevity, can hum quietly for decades. They do not care if dust storms rage, if sunlight fades. They provide heat, electricity, and stability. Imagine such a reactor, no larger than a small car, buried partly beneath the surface for protection, its core glowing softly with energy. From it runs warmth into habitats, power into greenhouses, charge into life support system. It becomes a quiet guardian, unseen yet essential. There are dreams of other technologies too. Wind turbines might catch the Martian breeze, though the air is thin. Geothermal wells could one day tap into the planet's inner warmth, though drilling deep is no easy task. Even fuel made from local resources, methane synthesized from carbon dioxide and hydrogen, could play a role, powering engines, rockets, or generators. Each idea adds another thread to the web of survival. Inside the city, energy flows like blood through veins. Cables snake beneath floors and walls, carrying current to lamps, heaters, filters. Each home, each greenhouse, each laboratory plugs into this invisible lifeline. Settlers watch their consumption carefully. Monitors glow with charts and numbers showing how much power is produced, how much remains. Every watt matters. Waste is not tolerated, because waste could mean darkness, cold silence. And yet, within these limits, ingenuity blooms. Engineers design systems to recycle heat, to capture waste energy, to run machines only when needed. Habitats are built with insulation, layered walls that trap warmth and minimize demand. Light is distributed efficiently, plants grown under LEDs tuned to just the right spectrum. Slowly, carefully, a balance is found, not abundance, but enough. Energy here is not only practical, it carries symbolism too. To capture sunlight on Mars is to claim connection with the same star that nourishes Earth. To light a room beneath a dome is to declare presence, to say, we are here and we endure. At night, when the city glows softly under the stars, each lamp becomes a testament to persistence. Against a planet that gives no power freely, humanity creates its own. In quiet moments, you imagine walking past the solar fields at dusk. The panels gleam faintly, tilted toward the fading sun. Dust gathers on their surfaces, waiting to be brushed away by careful hands or robotic cleaners. Beyond them, the city lights flicker on, warm against the cold horizon. The contrast is striking. Natural light fading, artificial light rising. Together they form a rhythm, the cycle of reliance and resilience. You think too of Earth. Their debates about energy often center on abundance and sustainability. Fossil fuels, renewables, nuclear, wind, hydro, choices weighed with politics and preference. On Mars, choice is simpler. There is no luxury of excess, no tolerance for pollution, no time for delay. Energy is drawn where it can be drawn, is used as efficiently as possible, and always respected. This clarity is humbling. Children raised here will grow up with this awareness. They will know that power is fragile, finite, dependent on care. They will learn to conserve instinctively, to value light and heat as gifts rather than entitlements. Perhaps, in this way, Mars will raise a generation more mindful of balance, more grateful for the simple glow of a lamp, the steady hum of a heater. And as the city grows, energy demands will grow as well. More people, more greenhouses, more machines, more laboratories. Each expansion must be matched by new panels, new reactors, new systems. Growth is limited not only by water and food, but by the invisible current that flows through wires. Expansion will be cautious, deliberate, tethered to the pace of power. At night, you picture the city from orbit. Below, on a world of darkness, a cluster of lights shines faintly, glowing against the dust. They are not bright like Earth's cities, but they are enough. They say, quietly but firmly, life is here, but even as the city glows, you know that energy is fragile. A storm too long, a reactor failure, a miscalculation, these could plunge the city into peril. Survival depends not only on generating power, but on enduring the moments when it falters. Mars reminds you that no system is perfect, that resilience is not in avoiding challenge, but in meeting it. And one of the greatest challenges comes not from scarcity of energy, but from the storms themselves. Vast tempests of dust and silence that can cloak the planet for weeks. To live here, you must learn not only to generate power, but to wait patiently through these storms, trusting that light will return. Last lines transition. The lights inside the domes glow softly, even as the horizon darkens with rising dust. You feel the hum of power steady beneath your feet, and yet you wonder, how does the city endure when storms stretch across the sky and turn day into endless night? On Mars, silence is the ordinary state of things. The air is too thin to carry sound far, too light to roar with the force of earthly winds. Yet silence does not mean stillness. Every so often, winds gather across the red deserts, fine dust lifts into the sky, and a storm is born. What begins as a whisper becomes a veil, spreading until it covers horizons, then continents, then at times the entire planet. The first thing you notice is the light. Sunlight grows pale, filtered through a haze of dust that hangs like smoke. Shadows soften, colours shift. The world takes on a muted glow, as though wrapped in gauze. Solar panels, so crucial for power, grow less effective with every passing hour. The city dims its lamps, slows its systems, enters a mode of waiting. Life contracts, adjusting to scarcity. Outside, the winds sweep across plains, but they do not howl as they would on Earth. The atmosphere is too thin to carry their voice. Instead, you see their presence. Dust lifted, dust carried, dust suspended in the sky. Grains finer than flour, lighter than ash, spread until they blot out the sun. Day becomes twilight, twilight becomes night, and yet the storm continues. Dust storms on Mars can last for weeks, even months. They do not rage with violent gusts that topple trees or shatter glass. Their danger is not force but persistence. By dimming sunlight, they starve power systems. By coating panels, they cut efficiency further. By lingering, they test patience and endurance. A storm here is not an event to outrun, but a season to endure. Inside the domes, you listen. Air filters hum louder, working to keep dust from creeping in through every seam. The taste of fine grit lingers on surfaces, a reminder that nothing stays untouched. Outside excursions halt. Greenhouses rely more heavily on stored energy, lights dim to conserve. Routines shift inward. Life becomes quieter, slower, shaped by the knowledge that the storm decides the rhythm now. You imagine standing at a window during such a storm. Beyond the glass, the horizon is gone, the land erased. Only a red haze fills your view, swirling endlessly. You search for familiar shapes, a hill, a crater rim, but they vanish in the blur. It is disorienting, unsettling. Mars reminds you of its scale, its power, its indifference. You're small, sheltered only by the fragile walls, waiting for a planet to calm. Dust is not only light, it is also memory. These fine grains have drifted for billions of years, carved by ancient winds, lifted from valleys and plains, settled and lifted again. To watch them swirl is to witness the planet's history in motion. Each grain carries stories older than life itself, older than oceans, older than Earth's forests. The storm is not only weather, it is time itself moving across the land. For settlers, storms reshape not only the environment but the mind. Patience becomes essential. You learn to live without clear skies, to accept dimness, to trust in stored reserves. You mark days not by sunrises but by routines, exercise, meals, repairs, conversations. Life shrinks to what is close, immediate, intimate. In the hush of storm season, community grows stronger. People gather, share stories, comfort one another. Outside may be endless dust, but inside is warmth. Technology must adapt as well. Engineers design panels that tilt, that shake off dust, that wait patiently for light to return. Some imagine balloons or drones to sweep across fields, brushing surfaces clean. Nuclear power becomes a steady anchor, immune to the storm's dimming. But even with these caution rules, systems run in conservation mode. Luxuries fade, efficiency becomes ritual. Storms test more than machines. They test resilience of spirit. Settlers may feel isolation more acutely, a sense of being sealed away while the planet itself turns unfriendly. Yet even here lies a lesson. The storm passes in its own time, the sun will return, the skies will clear, light will flow again. To endure is not defeat, it is patience rewarded. You think of earth storms, thunder rolling, rain pounding, winds howling. They arrive with noise, violence, spectacle. Mars storms are quieter, slower, subtler, but no less profound. Their silence carries weight, their persistence carries power. In them you feel the vastness of the planet, the truth that you are a guest here, not yet at home. And perhaps over time, storms will shape culture. Songs written about dim days, stories told of patience, rituals created to mark the first clear sky after weeks of haze. Children may grow up remembering storm seasons not only as hardship but as shared experience. Times when the city turned inward, when laughter and music filled the halls more than usual. Hardship, after all, often deepens bonds. When at last the storm fades, the return of light feels like a revelation. The sky clears, the sun shines, solar panels hum with energy again. Dust lies thick on surfaces, waiting to be brushed away, but hope rises with the light. The city exhales, stretching after a long pause. Life resumes its wider rhythm, grateful for the storm's end. You step outside after such a storm. The air is still thin, still cold, but the sky feels brighter than you remembered. The red land stretches clear again, sharp and defined. Each stone, each shadow feels more vivid, as though the planet has been washed clean. You realize that the storm, though difficult, has given a gift, a renewed sense of light, of clarity, of appreciation for the fragile balance that sustains you here. And yet, even in this renewed clarity, you cannot forget the truth storms reveal. That Mars is vast, and you are small. Its rhythms will not bend easily. Its patience outlasts your own. To live here is to accept this humility, to endure not through control, but through respect. Last lines, transition. As the last grains of dust settle and light returns, you walk softly, aware of your smallness. And in that lightness of step, you feel something curious. Gravity itself is different here, shaping every movement, every gesture. When you take your first steps on Mars, you notice it instantly. Your body feels lighter, as though the planet itself is not pulling as hard on you. Each stride carries you farther. Each leap feels easier. Each gesture seems freer. Mars's gravity is only 38% of Earth's. If you weigh 70 kilograms on Earth, here you weigh barely 26. You are the same, and yet you are not. This difference is subtle at first, almost playful. You walk and feel buoyant, as though the ground forgives you, as though the dust welcomes your tread without resistance. A small jump that would lift you a few inches on Earth now sends you higher, longer, as if time itself stretches mid-air. Children born here will learn to bound and leap naturally, their games shaped by physics Earth never knew. Their laughter will echo lightly in domes and tunnels, their emotions more dance than step. But the lightness carries weight of another kind. Your body is built for Earth, for its steady pull, for muscles and bones accustomed to constant strain. Here, in reduced gravity, the body begins to change. Bones lose density, muscles shrink, hearts work less forcefully. Without careful exercise, strength fades. Gravity, though weaker, still shapes you, and not by holding you down, but by letting you go too easily. To live on Mars is to live between these two truths, freedom and fragility. Settlers will need to train daily, strapping themselves to treadmills, lifting to resistance bands, practicing movement that mimics Earth's weight. Children may grow differently, their bones less dense, their frames lighter. Over generations, humans here may become a new kind of human, adapted not to Earth but to Mars. The gravity of belonging may become not just metaphorical but biological. You imagine walking through a greenhouse, carrying water to plants. The bucket feels lighter than it should, the task less tiring. But when you trip and spill, the water arcs strangely, droplets floating higher before falling. You notice how every accident, every gesture is subtly altered. Daily life is relearned under this gentler pull. Gravity shapes not only movement but architecture. Domes and buildings need less reinforcement since weight presses more softly. Towers can rise taller, wider spans can stretch without collapse. Yet dust and airlocks must still resist pressure from within, for the atmosphere outside remains thin. The city takes on a unique design, sculpted not by tradition but by the patient hands of physics. Even play will be different. Imagine children inventing sports with leaps that carry them meters across the floor. Games of chase where each bound becomes a graceful arc. Artists may choreograph dances only possible under these conditions, movements so fluid they seem like dreams made solid. Gravity becomes not just a constraint but a canvas. Yet beneath these playful differences lies a deeper reflection. Gravity has always bound you, holding oceans in place, shaping mountains, guiding the flight of birds. On Earth, it is invisible because it is constant. Here, by its very absence of weight, you notice it. You understand that gravity is not only physical but emotional, a pull that ties you to worlds, to homes, to one another. The phrase "the gravity of belonging" takes on new meaning. On Mars, you are lighter, but you are also tethered. You belong because the planet pulls on you. Even if gently, you belong because you adapt, because you stay, because you choose to plant yourself in its dust. Belonging here is not about force but about willingness. At night, as you lie in your bed, you feel the difference again. The mattress presses against you more softly, the weight of your body eased. Sleep comes quickly, carried on this gentle pull. Dreams may even feel lighter, as though your mind has followed your body into new rhythms. You drift between wakefulness and slumber, with a sense of floating, of being carried rather than anchored. But the reduced gravity also carries dangers. A fall may hurt less, but injuries heal slower when bones grow thinner. The heart, relieved of its usual work, may lose strength over years. Doctors will study carefully, adjusting diets, therapies, exercises. Medicine here will focus not only on illness, but on adaptation, guiding bodies through the slow transformation of living under another planet's pull. Over time, identity will shift. Earth will feel heavier, both literally and figuratively. For those born on Mars, returning to Earth may feel impossible, their bodies too fragile for its weight. Mars will be their only home, not by choice but by physics. Belonging will mean remaining. A Martian child may look up at Earth as an idea, a story told by parents, but never a place they can truly stand. And yet this belonging is not less. It is simply different. Gravity defines home. On Earth you are pulled strongly, rooted firmly. On Mars you are held more gently, allowed to move more freely, yet still tethered. Both are true, both are real. To belong is to accept the pull you live under, to find meaning in the weight or the lightness it gives you. You imagine walking outside again, across the dusty plains. Each step kicks up grains that hang in the thin air longer than they would on Earth, drifting slowly before falling. You leap, and for a moment you feel suspended, as if gravity has loosened its grip. Yet you always come back down. Mars may hold you lightly, but it still holds you. And in that gentle holding you sense something profound. Belonging does not always require heaviness. Sometimes it can be found in the lightest of touches, in the faint pull of a world that has accepted you, not by force but by presence. Last lines, transition. As you float gently under this softer gravity, you feel both free and fragile. And in that fragility lies another truth. The body itself must be cared for, guarded, and healed beneath these distant skies. On Earth you carry health almost unnoticed. Gravity holds your bones firm, the atmosphere shields you from radiation, and the biosphere surrounds you with nutrients. Doctors treat illness, but daily life rarely requires you to think constantly about survival. On Mars, the balance is different. Here, health is not something assumed, it is something guarded, moment by moment, under skies that do not care whether you thrive. The first challenge is the body itself. In reduced gravity, muscles and bones lose strength quickly. Every step you take is lighter, every task less demanding, but your body interprets this as disuse. Without strain, bones thin, calcium leaches away, muscles weaken. Astronauts on the International Space Station experience this after only months. On Mars, settlers will live years, perhaps lifetimes, under weaker pull. Exercise becomes medicine, daily and relentless. Running strapped to treadmills, lifting against resistance bands, cycling, stationary bikes, not for sport but for survival. The heart too changes. With less gravity pulling blood downward, fluids shift upward, pressing against eyes, reshaping circulation. Some astronauts return to Earth with blurred vision, swelling in their optic nerves. On Mars, these shifts may become permanent. Doctors will study, adapt, develop treatments to protect sight, to keep the rhythm of circulation steady in bodies that no longer know Earth's weight. Then there is radiation, invisible and persistent. Mars has no global magnetic field, no thick atmosphere to protect you. Cosmic rays and solar particles pass more easily, striking DNA, raising risks of cancer, damaging tissues silently over time. Habitats must be shielded, built underground or layered with regolith. Water tanks may double as walls, absorbing particles. Even so, radiation cannot be erased entirely. Living here means carrying its shadow, accepting its risks, and working constantly to reduce its reach. Mental health, too, is fragile beneath these distant skies. Isolation presses close, distance from Earth feels heavy. Confinement in small habitats strains patience. The absence of nature, no forests, no rivers, no open sky, leaves the mind hungry for colour, sound and freedom. To care for health here is not only to guard the body, but to nurture the spirit. Art, music, stories, gardens of green inside domes, these become medicine just as real as food or oxygen. You imagine a doctor in a Martian settlement. Their role is broad, their tools stretched. They are surgeon, therapist, nutritionist, researcher all at once. They carry responsibility not just for individuals, but for the community. Every cough, every fever, every fracture must be treated with precision, for resources are limited and emergencies harder to escape. Evacuation to Earth is impossible once months away. Here, medicine must be complete, resilient, self-reliant. Nutrition itself becomes part of health. Meals carefully planned, balanced with vitamins and minerals that Mars soil cannot yet provide. Supplements fill gaps, hydroponic greens supply freshness, protein comes from algae, insects, or lab-grown substitutes. Each bite is designed not only for taste but for long-term survival, keeping bones strong, blood healthy, minds alert. Eating here is not indulgence. It is therapy carefully prescribed by necessity. Children born on Mars will need special care. Their bones and muscles may form differently, shaped by weaker gravity. Their immune systems may adapt to a smaller, controlled environment, untested by the variety of Earth's microbes. Doctors will study their growth, watching for changes, protecting them as pioneers of a new physiology. Health here is not static, it evolves, just as humanity itself evolves under distant skies. You consider emergencies: a broken bone, a burst appendix, a sudden infection. On Earth, ambulances rush, hospitals gleam, specialists gather. On Mars, response is slower, tools fewer, choices sharper. Surgery may be performed in small, sterile chambers guided by limited instruments. Every decision carries higher stakes. Every treatment carries weight. Health here demands foresight, preparation, and courage. Yet fragility breeds resilience. Communities learn to support one another, to notice stress before it becomes crisis, to share burdens before they overwhelm. Preventive care becomes central: monitoring, exercise, counseling, nutrition, all woven into daily life. Health is not only personal but communal, sustained by vigilance shared among all. You imagine sitting in a habitat during a health check. Machines measure bone density, scan eyes, monitor heart rhythms. Data streams into computers, algorithms compare progress to baselines, warnings flash if something drifts. It feels constant yet reassuring. Attention is care. On Mars, health is never forgotten, because forgetting would be costly. And perhaps this constant awareness carries wisdom. On Earth, abundance and protection allow you to forget how fragile the body truly is. On Mars, fragility is revealed, made visible. It teaches gratitude for every strong step, every clear vision, every steady breath. Health becomes not just background, but blessing. At night, you reflect on this. The body you carry is both resilient and delicate, both capable of great adaptation and vulnerable to subtle shifts. On Mars, you will learn to respect that balance more deeply. Every exercise, every shield, every vitamin, every song sung to lift the spirit, these become threads in the fabric of survival. Health under distant skies is not guaranteed, but it is possible. With vigilance, care, and devotion, the body can endure, the mind can flourish, the spirit can find peace. Mars does not offer safety, but it offers meaning, a chance to live carefully, fully, with awareness sharpened by fragility. And yet, even as the body is cared for within the domes, another need remains: the need to connect across distance, to bridge the gap of millions of kilometers between Mars and Earth. For health is not only physical or emotional, it is also relational. To thrive, you must speak, share, and remain part of a wider human story. Last lines: transition. As you rest, your body guarded by vigilance and care, another hunger stirs within you. The hunger for voices beyond the domes. And so you wonder, how does communication reach across the void, carrying words between two worlds? The need to speak is as old as breath. On Earth, you call across a room, and the answer comes instantly. You type a message, and a reply pings back within seconds. The world feels stitched together by immediacy. But on Mars, immediacy unravels. Here, communication stretches across distance, carried not by air but by radio waves, travelling at the speed of light, fast beyond measure, yet slow enough that delay becomes your constant companion. At its closest, Mars is about 55 million kilometres from Earth. At its farthest, more than 400 million. Radio waves make that journey in minutes, not hours, yet those minutes feel heavy. When planets are aligned favourably, the delay is only 4 or 5 minutes. When they are far apart, it can be more than 20. Each word you send drifts into silence before an answer returns. A conversation that would take minutes on Earth can stretch into hours. Imagine calling someone you love. You speak, your voice encoded into waves, sent across millions of kilometres. Then you wait, 5, 10, 15 minutes. The reply arrives eventually, but by then your own words feel distant, as though you are answering a version of yourself that no longer exists. Dialogue becomes correspondence, conversations turn into letters, communication slows, becomes deliberate, becomes something more like reflection than chatter. Inside the settlement, systems manage this flow. Antennas rise on Martian soil, dishes turn toward Earth, signals beam through the void. Satellites relay messages, ensuring they arrive, storing them when Earth slips behind the Sun. For a few weeks every 2 years, Mars and Earth lie opposite the Sun, and communication is impossible. This blackout is called solar conjunction. In those weeks, settlers live entirely on their own, without even delayed voices to connect them. The silence deepens. Yet even in delay, communication carries weight. Families send videos, stories, songs. Scientists exchange data, engineers share solutions, governments send updates. Messages may be old by the time they arrive, but they are no less cherished. In the absence of immediacy, words gain permanence. You read them carefully, savour them, knowing they cannot be tossed aside. This slowness shapes psychology. On Earth, impatience grows with every second of buffering, every small lag. On Mars, patience becomes second nature. You learn to wait, to trust that answers will come in their own time. In this way, communication across the void becomes less like conversation and more like meditation. You speak, you pause, you reflect, and eventually the universe replies. Inside the community, communication feels different. Here, voices echo instantly across domes and tunnels. The contrast is striking. With neighbours, you share laughter, music, stories in real time. With Earth, you share thoughts that drift like bottled messages across an ocean. Two rhythms coexist. This, the immediacy of the small circle around you, and the patience of the larger circle far away. Children will grow up with this delay as ordinary. For them, Earth will be a place reached not by travel or instant call, but by long-distance letters. They will write messages, send them, and know that days may pass before replies complete the cycle. Earth will feel less like a parent and more like a grandparent, distant, loved, remembered, but living in a different rhythm. In time, Martian communities may develop their own independence of thought, their own cultures of speech and silence shaped by this slow tether. Technology may soften the distance but cannot erase it. Artificial intelligence could act as proxy, filling gaps, answering questions instantly, while Earth's response lingers. Stored libraries of culture, books, films, music, will ensure that settlers are never without Earth's voice, even when live communication is impossible. But the delay itself will always remain. The speed of light is a law, and Mars respects no impatience. There is a strange beauty in this. Words sent across millions of kilometers feel almost sacred. They remind you of distance, of scale, of the vast space between worlds. To speak and wait is to feel the immensity of the universe. It is to know that you are small yet still connected, still capable of reaching across darkness with nothing but a signal and a hope. You picture yourself sitting at a console recording a message. Your face appears on screen, your voice steady. You speak of daily life, of dust storms, of greenhouses, of laughter shared with neighbours. Then you press send. Hours later, perhaps, your family on Earth will watch. They will hear your voice, see your face, feel your presence despite the distance. And when their reply comes, days may have shifted, yet the connection will still feel real. Love, after all, does not weaken with delay. In times of crisis, the delay is sharpest. An emergency arises, a system fails, and advice from Earth cannot arrive instantly. Settlers must decide, act, adapt. Communication here is support, not rescue. Independence grows not from desire, but from necessity. To live on Mars is to rely on yourself, your community, your immediate circle. Earth can guide, but it cannot intervene in time. This realization reshapes identity. Slowly, Martians will think of themselves not only as extensions of Earth, but as their own people. Communication across the void remains a thread, but it is thin, stretched, fragile. The heart of daily life beats locally, within the domes, among those who share your sky. And yet no matter how thin, the thread matters. You may be months away from travel, minutes away from words, but the connection still exists. It is proof that you are not alone, proof that Earth still listens, still cares, still dreams with you. Across the void, voices echo, delayed but unbroken. Last lines transition, and as you wait for Earth's reply, you imagine a future even more intimate. Not only voices carried across distance, but children carried into this new world, born beneath the Martian sky. The first cry of a child on Mars will echo differently than on Earth. Not through open air beneath a vast blue sky, but within domes of steel and glass, softened by recycled air, carried through narrow corridors. And yet, no matter how faint, that cry will carry weight greater than rockets or machines. It will mean that humanity has not only visited this place, but begun to belong. You imagine the moment, parents holding a newborn, wrapped not in sunlight but in artificial glow. Around them, doctors and neighbours gather, smiling through exhaustion and awe. Outside the dome, the planet remains silent, cold, indifferent. But inside, life has taken root in its most vulnerable form. The birth of a child is always a promise. On Mars, it becomes a declaration. Growing up here will be unlike growing up anywhere else. Children will take their first steps in low gravity, their movements light and buoyant, their falls gentler. Their games will stretch farther, their leaps higher. The physical world will shape them differently. Bones may grow less dense, muscles less strong, frames more delicate. Doctors will watch closely, guiding nutrition, exercise and growth, learning in real time how human bodies adapt across generations. But childhood is not only body, it is imagination. What stories will Martian children hear before bed? They will not fall asleep to the sound of rain or wind through trees, but to the hum of machines, the rhythm of life support systems. Their lullabies may be the songs of fans, the soft whisper of air vents, the steady beat of recycled water. Familiarity will make these sounds comforting, even beautiful. To them, they will not represent fragility but safety. Education will take new forms, lessons will weave together science and survival, teaching children how to tend plants in greenhouses, how to repair air filters, how to conserve energy. At the same time, they will study Earth, its oceans, forests, creatures, places they may never touch but will carry as part of their heritage. For them, Earth may feel mythical, a cradle remembered through stories and images, distant yet beloved. Play will adapt too. Sports that rely on gravity will evolve into new games, unique to Mars. Imagine ball games where arcs stretch higher, dances where leaps float longer, tag games where children bound across corridors with laughter. Childhood will invent joy from constraints, finding wonder in altered physics. What seems foreign to adults will feel natural to them, as though Mars has always been their home. Community will shape their sense of family. With settlements small, every adult may play a role in raising children, teaching, protecting, nurturing. Birthdays will not just be family affairs but communal celebrations, marking milestones as achievements for all. Each child will be a reminder that survival has become continuity, that humanity has not only endured but multiplied. Still, challenges will remain. Isolation may press heavily on young minds. They will grow in worlds of enclosed space, their horizons limited by domes, their skies always filtered by glass. Without careful thought, the absence of wide landscapes could weigh upon imagination. To nurture them, settlers will create spaces filled with light, murals of forests, recordings of birdsong, virtual windows showing oceans and mountains. Art and technology will bring Earth to them, even as Mars shapes them. Psychology will adapt across generations. For Earth-born settlers, Mars may always feel foreign, its silence unsettling, its demands heavy. But for children born here, Mars will feel natural. They will not miss oceans they have never seen or forests they have never walked. Their nostalgia will be different, their roots planted in red dust and domes of light. They will call themselves Martians without hesitation, carrying identity shaped not by loss but by presence. Imagine a classroom beneath a dome. Children gather around a teacher, watching as she draws Earth and Mars on a board. Earth spins quickly, its day shorter. Mars turns more slowly, its year longer. The children nod, absorbing this not as curiosity but as truth. To them, this rhythm is ordinary. Their sense of time, of space, of home is rewritten from the start. As they grow, they will ask questions adults cannot fully answer. Why can we not go outside without suits? Why can we not breathe the air beyond these walls? Why can we not see grandparents without waiting weeks for messages? Their questions will be innocent, but they will reveal the gulf between expectation and reality. Adults will answer patiently, but children will adapt swiftly, as children always do. What begins as limitation becomes normal, even joyful, when accepted early. Each generation deepens belonging. The first children will be pioneers without choosing, carrying bodies that reflect adaptation. Later generations may grow taller, lighter, more agile. Their culture will diverge, shaped by stories, games, and rituals unique to Mars. They will form traditions Earth has never known. Festivals marking the first harvest of lettuce, songs sung during dust storms, dances celebrating the return of sunlight. Childhood here will not be a shadow of earthly childhood, but its own bright form, and yet Earth will remain present. Parents will share videos of oceans, animals, rain. Teachers will read stories of forests, rivers, storms. These will shape imagination as myths once did for earlier generations. Earth will become both memory and legend, a reminder of where humanity began. Children may dream of visiting, though their bodies may never allow it. Still, they will carry Earth inside them, even as they belong to Mars. The birth of a child on Mars is not just biology. It is continuity, meaning, hope. It is proof that life does not merely survive, but expands, adapts, renews itself in new places. Every laugh, every cry, every step of these children becomes a thread in the tapestry of humanity's story, woven now across two worlds. And as you picture them running lightly under domes, chasing one another in gravity that makes their leaps float, you feel the wonder of it. Mars is no longer empty. It carries voices, footsteps, and futures. Last lines, transition. As children laugh and leap beneath domes, their songs echo through corridors, carrying the beginnings of a culture, and you begin to wonder what kind of stories, art, and traditions will bloom beneath these crimson skies. Culture grows wherever people gather. It does not wait for centuries, nor demand abundance. It begins in voices lifted together, in colours brushed onto walls, in rituals repeated until they become memory. On Earth, cultures have blossomed under every sky, by rivers, on islands, in deserts, in forests. On Mars, culture will bloom too, though its soil is red dust, its water locked in icy, its sky thin and pale. Even here, humanity will not live by survival alone. It will sing, it will paint, it will dream. The first seeds of culture will be small. A song hummed while working in a greenhouse, later shared at meals until it becomes familiar. A mural painted on the inside of a dome, brightening the sterile walls with forests, oceans, stars. A story told to children before sleep, of Earth's rain, of Mars' dust storms, of the courage it takes to live between worlds. These moments gather like threads, weaving patterns that feel like belonging. You imagine a settlement during a dust storm, lights dimmed, people gathered in a central hall. Someone strums a guitar brought from Earth, another taps rhythm on a table. Voices rise, hesitant at first, then stronger. The music fills the dome, blending with the hum of machines, creating warmth where cold presses outside. In that moment, culture is born. Not planned, not commanded, but rising naturally from the human need to create. Art will find new forms here. Painters may use Martian dust itself, mixing it into pigments to capture the colours of the landscape. Sculptors may carve from local stone, shaping figures that echo both human memory and alien environment. Writers may craft poems about sunsets tinted blue, about moons that race quickly overhead. Each creation becomes both reflection and discovery, a way of seeing Mars not only as challenge, but as inspiration. Language too may shift. New words may emerge to describe experiences unknown on Earth. The particular stillness of a soul's long twilight, the hush of waiting through storms, the joy of tasting the first Martian-grown strawberry. Over generations, accents may diverge, expressions may adapt, until Martian speech carries its own cadence, its own music. Culture reshapes language, and language reshapes thought. Rituals will rise with necessity. Perhaps every harvest will be celebrated with a communal meal, giving thanks not only to plants but to those who tended them. Perhaps every dust storm's end will be marked with songs of light, welcoming back the sun. Birthdays may carry special weight, each child a symbol of continuity. Even the act of maintaining life support systems may take on ritual significance, checked and honoured daily like sacred duties. Religion may transform as well. Some may carry faiths from Earth, adapting prayers to new horizons. Others may find spirituality in Mars itself, in its sarno, its patience, its resilience. To look at the night sky here, sharp with stars, is to feel small yet connected. Some may call this science, others spirituality, but in both reverence blooms. Cuisine, though humble, becomes cultural expression. Meals shared carry stories, flavours adapted to available resources, algae stews, insect protein, hydroponic greens, each dish shaped into the tradition by repetition and memory. Spices brought from Earth may stretch across years, treasured like heirlooms. A pinch of cinnamon, a drop of oil, a spoonful of cocoa may become not just flavour but heritage. Children will grow into these traditions naturally. For them, Martian culture will not be invention but inheritance, They will learn songs written under domes, games created in low gravity, stories that begin not with "once upon a time on Earth," but "once upon a time on Mars." Their drawings will show red horizons, their dances will echo lighter steps. What begins as adaptation becomes identity. You think of Earth cultures shaped by landscapes, desert tribes who learned patience, mountain peoples who carried resilience, island communities who valued cooperation. Mars, too, will shape its people. Its silence may foster introspection, its storms may inspire patience, its scarcity may nurture gratitude. Out of necessity, Martian culture will carry traits that reflect its environment: resilience, community, mindfulness. And yet, connections to Earth will remain. Songs carried across radio waves, videos shared despite delay, traditions adapted from far away. Martian culture will not erase Earth's roots, but braid them with new threads. A lullaby may combine earthly melody with Martian imagery. A festival may honour Earth's solstices, but adapt them to Mars's longer year. Culture here will be both remembrance and reinvention, a bridge across planets. Art will also serve as archive. Settlers may paint murals of oceans to remind themselves of what they left, write poems about Earth's skies so children can imagine them, compose music that captures both longing and pride. In these creations, Earth lives on, even as Mars becomes home. Culture does not replace, it expands, holding memory and presence together. Over time, Martian culture will gain confidence. No longer merely adaptation, it will become innovation. New genres of music shaped by the acoustics of domes, new sports designed for lighter gravity, new holidays marking milestones of settlement, the first harvest, the founding of a city, the anniversary of a child's birth beneath the red skin. Slowly, surely, Mars will no longer feel borrowed. It will feel its own. In this way, culture becomes not only expression but survival. It gives meaning to endurance, colour to routine, joy to difficulty. Without it, life here would be mechanical, stripped to function. With it, life becomes human, rich, full, worth living. Culture in crimson hues transforms survival into belonging. And as you picture it, music echoing in domes, murals glowing against walls, children dancing in lighter steps, you feel the warmth of continuity. Mars will never be Earth, but it will not be empty. It will hold laughter, stories, art, memory. It will hold humanity's spirit, painted in new shades, sung in new tones, carried forward in crimson hues. Last lines. Transition. As songs echo beneath domes and stories gather in crimson light, another question rises. What rules will guide these communities, and who will decide the law of distant lands? On Earth, laws fill libraries. Nations write constitutions, parliaments pass acts, courts interpret pages upon pages. Rules shape societies sprawling across millions, enforced by armies, defended by centuries of tradition. On Mars, the beginnings will be smaller, quieter. Here, law does not emerge from ceremony but from survival. The first settlers will arrive with agreements drafted on Earth, perhaps treaties declaring Mars belongs to no single nation, perhaps charters outlining shared responsibilities. These documents will matter, but they will only be a starting point. For life on Mars, rules cannot remain distant. They must be lived daily, adapted to dust and silence, shaped by the fragility of domes and the scarcity of water. Imagine a settlement of 100 people. Every breath of oxygen is recycled, every litre of water monitored, every watt of energy measured. In such a place, fairness is not abstract. If one person wastes, all suffer. If one person endangers the systems, all face risk. Rules arise naturally, not from debate alone, but from necessity. Conserve, respect, repair, share. Law here is not distant authority, but shared promise. Disputes will come, as they always do. Neighbours may quarrel over resources, roles or responsibilities. On Earth, courts settle such matters across long processes. On Mars, delay is dangerous. Conflicts must be resolved swiftly, with fairness that maintains trust. Councils may form, gatherings of peers who listen, decide and restore balance. Justice here is not about punishment, but about protection of community. You picture a council seated in a dome, light reflecting softly on their faces. Around them, the community gathers. Voices rise one at a time, calm but firm. Decisions are made not for power but for survival. In this way, law becomes visible, immediate, woven into the rhythm of life. It is less a system above people than a bond between them. Punishment may take new forms, prisons are impractical, exile impossible. Instead, responsibility may be reshaped. Those who err may be asked to repair what they damaged, to contribute extra hours to regain trust through service. Restorative justice becomes not idealistic but practical. Forgiveness too becomes vital, for in small communities relationships cannot be severed ado without consequence. To heal conflict is to heal survival itself, but law must also look outward. Who owns the land beneath domes? Who claims the water drawn from ice? Who decides where a new settlement may rise? On Earth, borders have been sources of conflict for millennia. On Mars, humanity has a chance to begin differently, to treat the planet not as property but as common heritage. Whether this chance will be seized remains uncertain. The pull of old habits is strong. International treaties already speak of space as belonging to all, forbidding nations from claiming planets. Yet corporations, governments, and individuals may still compete, seeking profit or prestige. On Mars, settlers will feel this tension, living under fragile domes while distant powers debate ownership. In time, they may declare independence, shaping their own laws, not from Earth's interests but from Martian needs. This independence may grow naturally. Communication delays already make Earth's authority weak. A crisis cannot wait for answers sent 20 minutes away. Settlers must decide for themselves, act for themselves, govern themselves. The law of distant lands will emerge not from Earth's courts but from Martian soil, written in the breath and heartbeat of those who live there. You imagine children learning these laws, not reciting distant codes, but absorbing them through daily practice. Turn off unused lights, share water fairly, repair what you break, listen to your neighbours. To them, law will not feel heavy. It will feel like common sense, like the rhythm of living together in a fragile place. In this way, culture and law entwine, shaping identity together. Over generations, a Martian legal system may develop. Councils elected, charters written, traditions recorded. But at its core, it will remain grounded in the same truth. Survival requires fairness. Justice is not an ornament but a necessity. Law is not about power but about life. And perhaps, in this simplicity, Mars may offer Earth a mirror. On Earth, laws often grow tangled, distorted by wealth, politics, and distance from ordinary lives. On Mars, stripped of abundance, law becomes clear again. It protects not privilege but survival, not wealth but community. It reminds you that the essence of justice is not domination but care. At night, you imagine settlers gathering for a celebration. Children play, adults share food, music fills the hall. And yet, behind the joy there is understanding. All of this depends on rules honoured by all. The air they breathe, the warmth they feel, the food they eat, all safeguarded by agreements, by promises, by trust. The law of distant lands is written not in paper alone, but in every shared inhale, every shared laugh. This vision is fragile. Humans carry ambition, pride, conflict. Tensions may rise, mistakes may occur, rivalries may spark. But in the fragility lies hope. Necessity may guide people to cooperation, reminding them that survival is shared. Mars may not erase humanity's flaws, but it may encourage new ways of resolving them. And so, as you think of laws beneath crimson skies, you understand that they will not be perfect. They will stumble, evolve, fracture, heal, but they will grow, as all human systems do, into something that carries the voice of the people who live under them. A law of distant lands, shaped not by distance, but by presence. Last lines, transition. As rules take root beneath domes, you realize that governance is only part of survival. Beneath every law lies another force that unites a city, the economy of exchange, the fragile art of trade in a barren world. Economy on Earth often feels abstract, numbers on screens, markets rising and falling, currencies shifting, hands across invisible networks. But on Mars, economy returns to its roots. It is not about speculation or distant wealth, but about survival itself. Every trade is tangible, every value felt in breath, in hunger, in warmth. The economy of survival is not measured in coins, but in oxygen, water, food, and trust. Imagine a settlement of 100 people. Each day, machines hum to produce air, filters recycle water, plants yield leaves and fruit. These outputs are counted carefully, distributed fairly. If one person receives more, another receives less. Scarcity makes each exchange matter. Economy becomes less about profit than about balance, ensuring that everyone has enough to endure. In such a place, wealth takes new forms. A full tank of oxygen is more valuable than any coin. A litre of clean water is a treasure. A bag of potatoes from a greenhouse is not just food, but security. Currency may exist, perhaps digital, perhaps symbolic, but beneath it lies the same truth. True wealth is what keeps you alive. This clarity shapes behaviour. Waste is not simply frowned upon, it is dangerous. Hoarding is not luxury, it is betrayal. Generosity too gains deeper meaning. To share water is to share life. To give food is to give comfort. To offer time or labour is to strengthen community. In the economy of survival, value is measured in care as much as in goods. Work becomes central to exchange. Each person contributes according to the skill. Engineers repair systems, farmers tend crops, doctors heal, artists lift spirits. All roles, even those not tied directly to survival, matter. Art and song may not feed the body, but they feed the spirit, which is equally vital. The economy recognises this, not through markets alone, but through gratitude and communal respect. You picture a marketplace inside a dome. Stalls line the corridor, lit softly, each one offering something precious. A farmer displays bunches of lettuce, still damp from hydroponic trays. An engineer offers tools crafted from printed parts. A baker presents bread, its smell filling the air with comfort. People gather, trading not only goods but stories, laughter, time. The market becomes more than exchange. It becomes connection, culture, celebration. Yet even here, questions arise. Who decides how much oxygen each person receives? How are resources rationed during scarcity? What happens when storms cut power, when harvests fail, when systems falter? These questions press harder than any on Earth, for mistakes can cost lives. Governance and the economy intertwine, decisions made not by markets alone, but by councils, communities, shared responsibility. Over time, new systems may develop. Perhaps credits are issued for work, exchanged for food or leisure. Perhaps resources are shared communally with needs met directly. Perhaps hybrid models emerge, balancing fairness with incentive. Whatever form it takes, the economy will reflect the same truth. No one survives alone. Trade beyond the settlement may one day grow. Imagine two cities on Mars, weeks apart by travel. One lies near ice, rich in water. Another rests near mineral deposits, rich in metals. Between them flows exchange, water for steel, food for machinery, knowledge for safety. In this way, economy extends, not only balancing survival within one community, but weaving cooperation between many. Mars becomes not isolated domes, but a network of interdependence. And beyond Mars, trade may stretch to Earth. Early settlements will depend on shipments, technology, medicines, seeds, rare supplies. Over decades, as self-sufficiency grows, the flow may reverse. Metals mined on Mars, knowledge gained in harsh environments, innovations in recycling and efficiency, these may become exports, shaping Earth's economies in return. What begins as dependency may evolve into partnership or even independence. But independence carries its own economy, the economy of choice, to decide not only what is traded, but what is valued. On Earth, wealth often pools into excess, driving inequality. On Mars, scarcity forces awareness. If inequality grows, if some hoard oxygen while others suffer, the settlement itself may fracture. Balance is not optional. Fairness is not ideal, it is survival. In this way, the economy of survival teaches humility. It strips away illusions of abundance, returning you to essentials: food, water, air, warmth, trust. These are currencies older than money, more enduring than markets. They remind you that economy is not only about numbers, but about life shared together. You imagine children learning this truth. In school, they are not taught only about dollars or credits, but about litres of water, kilowatts of energy, grams of nutrients. They learn that every resource has value. Every exchange carries consequence. For them, economy will not be invisible. It will be felt in every breath, every bite, every lamp that glows. This awareness may ripple back to Earth. Seeing how Martians live, Earthlings may remember that even amid abundance, resources are finite. They may learn from the economy of survival, adopting practices of conservation, fairness, gratitude. Mars may teach Earth not only science but wisdom. At night, inside the domes, the marketplace closes, lights dim, people return to homes carrying food and goods, yet the true economy continues quietly. Machines recycle air, water circulates, power flows. The invisible systems sustain all, unpaid yet invaluable. You realize the real economy is not stalls or credits, but the constant circulation of life itself, the exchange between human and machine, between person and community, between planet and settlement. And in that realization you feel calm. Economy here is not greed, not endless hunger for more, but balance, fragile, sacred, necessary. It is the art of giving and receiving, the rhythm of survival made visible. Last lines transition. As markets close and air circulates through hidden pipes, you sense another balance waiting to be explored. Not only trade between people, but movement across the planet, the fragile art of travel beneath crimson skies. Travel on Earth often feels ordinary. Cars glide along highways, planes cut swiftly across continents, trains hum through valleys. Distance shrinks under engines and schedules. On Mars, travel stretches wide again, heavy with risk, deliberate in pace. To move beneath crimson skies is not casual, but purposeful, each journey planned with care, each step taken with awareness. The landscape invites and resists in equal measure. Vast plains of dust stretch toward horizons, broken by cliffs, valleys, and mountains. The planet feels open, almost infinite, yet every traveller carries their own small bubble of life. A rover pressurized with air, a suit sealed tight, supplies measured to the last drop. Outside that bubble, the planet offers no mercy. Travel becomes a dialogue between curiosity and caution. You imagine climbing into a rover, its walls thick, windows narrow, controls simple but precise. Before departure, systems are checked. Oxygen levels, battery charge, communication links, emergency supplies. Unlike on Earth, you do not leave casually. Every journey is an expedition, no matter how short. Then, with a low hum, the rover moves forward, treads crunching against dust that has lain untouched for ages. Outside, silence reigns. Wheels turn, dust lifts and falls slowly, settling in graceful arcs. The rover crawls steadily, not rushing. Speeds are modest, safety demands patience. The horizon shifts gradually. Mountains inch closer, valleys reveal themselves in time. You sit inside, gazing through glass, watching the planet unfold with dreamlike stillness. Walking on Mars is even slower. In a suit, movements are careful, deliberate. Each step sinks lightly into dust, leaving footprints that may last centuries in the absence of wind strong enough to erase them. The thin air carries no sound of footsteps. You move through silence, your own breath loud in your ears, your heartbeat steady. Walking here feels both grounding and otherworldly, as if each stride is both ordinary and sacred. Travel is shaped by gravity too. At 38% of Earth's pull, your steps bounce more easily. Leaps carry farther. Carrying loads feels lighter, yet balance feels different, strange. With practice, settlers adapt, turning challenges into rhythm. Children may run and play in low gravity, inventing games that weave joy into necessity. Adults will walk more cautiously, aware of fragility but also of freedom. Distances on Mars carry different meaning. A few kilometers may take hours in a rover. A trip to a nearby settlement may span days. Expeditions into valleys or mountains require planning, teams, supplies. Unlike Earth, where travel often feels rushed, here it becomes meditative, stretched across time and space, and each journey is not a blur but a steady unfolding. Hazards lie hidden in the landscape. Dust drifts can trap rovers, sharp rocks can damage wheels, storms can cut visibility. Navigation must be precise, guided by maps, satellites, and experience. Yet the risks carry a reward. The chance to stand at the rim of Valle Marinere, to see cliffs taller than any on Earth. The chance to climb the slopes of Olympus Mons, to touch the edge of the largest volcano in the solar system. Travel on Mars is never just movement, it is discovery. For settlers, travel also carries practical purpose. Rovers transport equipment, ferry supplies, link settlements. Journeys scout for ice deposits, survey land for expansion. explore caves for natural shelter. Each trip extends the city's reach, stitches together isolated habitats into networks of cooperation. Slowly, trails emerge, routes become familiar, paths marked by the memory of wheels and footsteps. In time, roads may form simple at first, then more permanent, connecting communities across the red world. You imagine standing on a ridge during such a journey. Below you, the land stretches endless, painted in rust and shadow. The sun hangs smaller in the sky, casting pale light. The silence is profound, deeper than any wilderness on Earth. And yet in that silence you feel presence, the presence of a planet vast and ancient waiting to be known. Travel here is not about conquering, but about listening, about learning to move gently across a world that is both alien and home. As settlements grow, so too will dreams of faster travel. Perhaps magnetic trains one day will glide through tunnels carved beneath dust. Perhaps aircraft powered by ingenuity will skim through thin skies. Perhaps caravans of pressurized vehicles will crawl like herds across plains. Each innovation will carry risk, but also connection. To travel is to weave together lives, to make a planet feel smaller, more intimate, more shared. But even as technology evolves, travel will always carry humility here. No matter how fast or far, each journey depends on fragile systems, air, heat, energy. To travel is to trust, to respect, to prepare. On Mars, movement is never careless. It is always conscious. And perhaps this consciousness is a gift. On Earth, travel often becomes hurried, destinations valued more than the journey. On Mars, the journey itself becomes sacred. Each kilometre crossed is earned, each view cherished, each step remembered. In this way, travel beneath crimson skies teaches patience, presence, reverence. At night, after a long day of travel, you imagine resting inside a rover. Outside, darkness spreads, stars burn sharp against black sky. Phobos races overhead, swift and small. Inside, warmth surrounds you, lights glow softly, recycled air fills your lungs. You close your eyes, knowing you are far from home yet sheltered, carried across a planet vast and silent. Travel has brought you not only distance but perspective. And as you drift into sleep, you realize that travel is more than movement across land. It is also movement of the heart, the slow journey from visitor to inhabitant, from outsider to someone who belongs. Each rover track, each footprint, each road drawn into dust is not just pathfinding, but homemaking. Mars, step by step, becomes less distant. Last lines, transition. As rovers crawl back toward glowing domes and footsteps linger in dust, another horizon beckons. Not only the land beneath your feet, but the stars above and the dream of travelling beyond Mars itself. Mars holds your focus for now, demanding patience, resilience and care. Its dust clings to your boots, its storms test your endurance, its silence teaches humility. Yet even as settlers grow roots here, the human gaze does not stop. Beyond Mars, other horizons call, moons that circle nearby, asteroids that wander the belt, planets farther still. The dream of expansion stretches outward like ripples on water. Phobos and Deimos, Mars' two small moons, rise first in imagination. Phobos races quickly across the sky, setting and rising multiple times each sol. Deimos drifts more slowly, faint but constant. These moons, though small, hold potential. Phobos could serve as a staging ground, a platform for observation, a place to build fuel depots or relay stations. Deimos, quieter and more distant, may offer calm bases for research. To step onto their surfaces would be to walk on worlds even stranger, their gravity so slight you could leap into space with one careless jump. Beyond the moons lies the asteroid belt, scattered with rocky bodies holding metals, water, and mysteries. Here, humanity imagines mining not only for resources, but for opportunity, building industries in orbit, harvesting material to sustain life across the solar system. These rocks, silent for billions of years, may one day become stepping stones between worlds. Mars, closer than Earth, becomes a gateway. The outer planets call more faintly yet persistently. Jupiter with its storms and moons, Saturn with its rings and frozen companions, distant Uranus and Neptune, quiet giants of gas and ice. Each lies far beyond easy reach, yet imagination already circles them. Scientists wonder about Europa's hidden ocean, Enceladus's geysers, Titan's methane lakes. Perhaps one day Mars-born explorers will sail those alien seas, their journeys beginning not on Earth, but from domes beneath crimson skies. Expansion is not only about physical reach, it is also about vision. On Earth, borders often divide. In space, horizons unite. To think of travelling beyond Mars is to think not of separation, but of connection. A network of habitats, stations and cities all linked across millions of kilometres, each one fragile, yet together forming a tapestry of presence. Humanity becomes not only planetary, but interplanetary. But expansion carries weight. To move farther requires energy, patience, technology. Rockets must be built, fuels refined, ships designed to endure years in space. Communities must decide, is it worth the risk, the cost, the effort? On Earth, expansion once meant ships sailing seas, caravans crossing deserts. Many perished, yet civilizations grew. In space the scale is larger, the risk sharper, but the drive is the same, the pull of curiosity, the desire to see what lies beyond. You imagine a launch from Mars, a rocket rising not from Earth's oceans but from red plains. Its engines roar into thin air, lifting toward the black. On board, explorers carry supplies, hopes and stories. Behind them the city glows faintly, a reminder of roots. Ahead the stars scatter, like seeds waiting to be planted. The moment feels both daring and inevitable. Mars-born children may see expansion differently. For them, Earth may be distant, unreachable. Mars will feel like home, yet even home may feel small in time. Just as Earth-born humans once looked beyond their continents, Martian-born humans may look beyond their planet. They will not carry nostalgia for oceans or forests, but longing for horizons untravelled. Expansion becomes their inheritance, curiosity their compass. Culture will carry outward too. Songs composed beneath domes will echo on the moons. Rituals created during dust storms will be remembered in asteroid stations. The crimson hue of Martian culture will paint itself across space, blending with new experiences, reshaping identity again and again. Expansion is not only science, but story. Each outpost becomes a chapter in the unfolding narrative of humanity among the stars. And yet, expansion must remain mindful. To step onto new worlds is to enter places with their own histories, their own silences. Some may hold life, even if microbial, hidden in oceans or ice. The question arises, do we settle or do we protect? Do we treat these worlds as homes or as sanctuaries? Mars teaches humility, but expansion will test it. Law, ethics, and reverence must travel with rockets, or else the mistakes of Earth may repeat. Still, the dream persists. To expand is to hope. To imagine is to live beyond limits. Mars itself was once only a light in the sky, a dream of canals and distant neighbours. Now it becomes home. What today seems unreachable may one day feel ordinary. Children may speak casually of trips to Phobos. Families may migrate to asteroids. Scientists may work on moons of Jupiter. Expansion will not erase difficulty, but it will widen possibility. At night, standing beneath Mars's sky, you lift your gaze. Stars shine sharper here, undimmed by thick air. You trace paths outward, to moons, to asteroids, to distant planets. You feel the pull of those horizons, patient but insistent. Just as Earth was not humanity's only home, neither will Mars be. The story stretches farther, thread by thread, light by light. And perhaps, in this stretching, humanity will learn again what it means to belong. Not only to Earth, not only to Mars, but to the cosmos itself. Expansion does not mean leaving behind, but carrying forward, carrying memories, cultures, songs, and hopes into the vastness. Each new settlement becomes both a destination and a beginning. The dream continues, widening, deepening, reaching. Last lines, transition. As stars burn sharp above and rockets rise from red plains, you sense the dream widening. Yet even as horizons expand, another question lingers. How will life itself, fragile, precious, endure across such distance? Life has always been fragile, even on Earth. A thin skin of atmosphere shields you from the void, A balance of chemistry sustains oceans, a narrow range of temperatures permits forests to grow. Yet on Earth, abundance masks fragility. You wake without worrying whether air will fill your lungs, whether water will flow from a tap, whether sunlight will rise tomorrow. On Mars, fragility cannot be ignored. Here, life is carried inside bubbles, domes, and suits. Every breath is engineered, every sip designed, every flame of warmth tended carefully. When you step outside in a suit, you feel it acutely. Beyond the helmet, there is no safety. The air cannot hold you. The cold would pierce you, the pressure would let your blood boil in seconds. A single crack, a single tear, and life is undone. Each step is both triumph and reminder. You are alive not because the world provides, but because systems hold. Inside the domes, fragility still lingers. Machines hum, filters spin, pumps circulate. If one fails, others must compensate. If several fail, lives hang in balance. On Earth, a storm may knock out power, yet survival is not questioned. Here, the margin is thinner. Fragility becomes visible in wires, pipes, and valves, in the constant maintenance that sustains existence. To live here is to recognize that life is not permanent but provisional, and yet fragility is not weakness. It is teacher. It reminds you of value, of care, of reverence. A drop of water is sacred because it can be lost. A breath is precious because it must be earned. A community is cherished because each member is vital. Fragility reveals strength not by erasing vulnerability, but by deepening gratitude for survival. You imagine settlers gathered in a greenhouse surrounded by rows of plants. The leaves glisten with moisture, their green vivid against red dust. The air is rich with oxygen, humid with life. Here, fragility and strength meet. Each plant could wilt without care, yet together they form resilience, sustaining both body and spirit. To see them thrive is to understand that fragility, when nurtured, becomes foundation. Children born here will grow up knowing this truth more deeply than Earthborn ever could. For them, survival will not be background, but foreground. They will learn to respect airlocks, to check gauges, to listen for the hum of systems. Fragility will be woven into daily awareness, shaping identity. They may see Earth's abundance as astonishing, even careless, when they first hear stories of oceans and rains falling freely. For them, life's delicacy will be obvious, not hidden. Fragility shapes ethics as well. Waste becomes moral failing, generosity becomes virtue, cooperation becomes necessity. To endanger another is not only wrong but existentially reckless. To nurture another is not only kind but essential. Fragility creates a moral clarity, reminding all that survival is shared, that life is interconnected. But fragility also breeds resilience. History shows that humans, though delicate, adapt with remarkable tenacity. Small communities have thrived in deserts, on mountains, across oceans. Each time, fragility was faced and overcome through care, ingenuity, and solidarity. On Mars, this pattern continues. Fragility is acknowledged, but not feared. It becomes motivation to build stronger systems, to deepen trust, to innovate continually. You picture a power failure in a settlement. Lights dim, alarms sound, tension rises, and yet, rather than panic, people move with practiced calm. Engineers adjust circuits, neighbours check on one another, children wait quietly as candles glow. Hours later, systems return, lights brighten, air circulates steadily again. Relief fills the room, but so does pride. Fragility has been met, endured, transformed into resilience. At night, lying in a habitat, you hear the hum of fans, the whisper of pumps. These sounds, on Earth easily ignored, here become lullabies. They are the heartbeat of survival, constant reminders of fragility held gently. Sleep comes not despite these sounds, but because of them. They reassure you that life continues, fragile yet sustained. And perhaps fragility offers wisdom beyond Mars. On Earth, abundance often breeds carelessness. Resources are consumed as though infinite, air polluted as though indestructible, oceans fished as though unending. Mars reveals the lie in such thinking. It shows, starkly, that life is always delicate, always dependent on balance. By living in fragility, humans may relearn humility, may bring back to Earth the reverence it has forgotten. Fragility also shapes beauty. A flower blooming inside a dome carries weight beyond its petals. Its colour is more vivid because it could so easily fail. A child's laughter rings brighter because it arises amid silence that would otherwise stretch unbroken. Each moment shines more fully because it is not guaranteed. Fragility sharpens appreciation, turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. You think of your own breath, inhale, exhale, so simple, so constant, so easily ignored. On Mars, you notice it always. Each inhale depends on systems working. Each exhale returns to be cleaned and used again. Breath becomes visible, sacred. To live here is to understand that each moment is both gift and miracle, fragile yet enduring. And perhaps this is what makes life on Mars profound. Not that it is easy, not that it is secure, but that it persists at all. Fragility does not diminish meaning, it deepens it. To hold life gently against a vast, indifferent planet is to affirm it more strongly. To nurture breath, to share food, to comfort one another is to say, we know life is delicate, but we choose it anyway. Last lines transition. As you breathe softly in the quiet dome, aware of life's fragility, another truth rises like dawn. Fragile life is sustained not by individuals alone, but by the strength of community working together as one. On Mars, survival is a collective act. Air is not personal, it flows through shared systems. Water is not private, it circulates in common tanks. Food is not solitary, it is grown in greenhouses tended by many hands. Every part of life depends on networks, on cooperation, on trust. No one survives here alone. The strength of community is the true foundation beneath the domes. Imagine a small settlement of 100 people. Each morning begins with shared routines. Engineers checking power, farmers tending plants, medics making rounds, children learning in communal halls. Every role matters. Every task contributes to the whole. If one fails, others step in. If one suffers, others gather to support. This interdependence is not weakness but resilience, woven tightly by necessity. Community here is practical first. During dust storms, people gather together, conserving energy, sharing warmth, lifting spirits. When a machine breaks, several work side by side, tools passing from hand to hand. When harvest comes, food is distributed fairly, each person receiving their share. The strength of community is measured not only in emotion but in daily acts, in meals shared, in chores completed, in problems solved together, but community is also spiritual. In isolation, far from Earth, settlers find meaning in each other. Birthdays celebrated in domes carry joy beyond measure, each life honoured as a collective achievement. Songs sung together during storms echo with resilience, binding voices in harmony. Even silence shared, watching a pale blue sunset through glass, becomes communion. In these moments, you feel not alone but profoundly connected. Disagreements arise as they always do. Scarcity presses on tempers, confinement sharpens conflicts. Yet even conflict teaches strength. Communities here cannot afford division. Arguments must be resolved, patience practiced, forgiveness extended. Over time, bonds deepen, not because they are free from strain, but because they survive it. The strength of community is not in perfection, but in persistence. Children grow within this fabric naturally. They see cooperation not as duty, but as ordinary life. They learn to help neighbours, to respect resources, to value fairness. Their games mirror community, playing roles, building together, sharing victories. For them, strength is not found in isolation, but in belonging. They will call themselves Martians not only because they live on Mars, but because they are part of a people shaped by shared survival. You imagine standing in a hall filled with voices. A storyteller recites the history of the first settlers, the challenges they faced, the victories they won. Around you, children listen wide-eyed, adults nod quietly, elders smile. The story belongs not to one but to all, a communal memory shaping identity. Community gives meaning to hardship, turning struggle into heritage. Strength also comes from diversity. Each person brings unique skills, perspectives, and histories. Engineers, artists, farmers, scientists, all contribute differently, yet all are needed. On Mars, there is little room for exclusion. Every talent matters, every hand is valued. The settlement thrives not by uniformity, but by weaving differences into a stronger whole. Community extends beyond the dome as well. As settlements grow, connections will form between them. Trade, communication, and shared knowledge will bind cities across the planet. When one suffers, others may help. When one thrives, others may learn. Slowly, a Martian identity will grow not just in individual domes, but across distances, uniting scattered lights into one constellation of community. And yet, even within strength lies fragility. If trust is broken, if selfishness grows, if unity frays, the community weakens. The margin of survival is thin, and discord can threaten it. This is why rituals of gratitude, fairness in distribution, and patience in conflict are not luxuries but necessities. The strength of community must be renewed daily through choices small and large. At night, after long work, people gather to rest. Some read, some sing, some simply sit together in silence. The presence of others is enough. You realize that community is not only about tasks or survival. It is about comfort, about knowing that you are held by others, that you are part of something larger than yourself. In that knowledge, you find peace. The strength of community is what transforms Mars from a barren world into a place of belonging. Machines may provide air, water, and food, but only people provide meaning. Laughter, stories, songs, comfort, support, these are what make life worth living. Without them, Mars would remain lifeless, even inside domes. With them, it becomes home, and perhaps in time this lesson will return to Earth. Mars teaches that no one survives alone, that life flourishes when shared, that community is the deepest resource. Earth, often divided by borders and wealth, may remember through Mars that strength comes not from isolation, but from togetherness. As you reflect, you see clearly, community is not only survival, it is resilience, beauty, joy. It is the thread that carries humanity forward, across deserts of dust and silence, into futures yet unwritten. Last lines, transition. As voices settle into quiet and domes glow softly against night, another thought rises. Even the strongest community is bound by time, and the question lingers. How long can cities endure beneath alien skies? Cities are not only structures of stone or steel, they are living rhythms sustained by people, memory, and time. On Earth, cities rise and fall, some lasting centuries, others vanishing in decades. They endure droughts, wars, floods, yet persist when communities adapt. On Mars, the question of longevity feels sharper. Here, cities are fragile domes in a barren desert, dependent on machines, on trust, on vigilance. How long can they last beneath alien skies? The first city may begin as a cluster of habitats stitched together with tunnels lit softly against red horizons. At first, every wall is checked daily, every system fragile. But over decades, structures grow sturdier. Technologies improve, failures teach wisdom. Generations add their layers, replacing temporary modules with permanent halls, carving tunnels underground, raising towers that shine against dust storms. Longevity begins not with grandeur, but with patience, each year building upon the last. The endurance of a city rests on three pillars: resources, resilience, and meaning. Resources provide the body: air, water, food, energy. Without them, no walls can stand. Resilience provides the mind and the ability to adapt, repair, innovate. Without it, no city can survive setbacks. Meaning provides the spirit: stories, traditions, hopes that bind people together. Without meaning, survival empties into futility. Resources may shift with time. Early cities depend on Earth, shipments of machinery and medicine arriving across months. Later, self-sufficiency grows, water drawn from ice, food grown in domes, materials mined and forged locally. The city that endures learns to rely less on distant supply and more on its own soil. Longevity emerges from roots not in fertile ground, but in determination to make barren land bloom. Resilience is tested constantly, machines fail, storms strike, accidents happen. The city that lasts is not one without crisis, but one that weathers crisis. Engineers must adapt system. Doctors must treat illness with limited tools. Farmers must recover from crop failures. Each challenge becomes part of the city's story, each recovery a thread of its endurance. Resilience means knowing that fragility is constant, but also knowing that fragility can be met with creativity. Meaning, though less tangible, may be most important of all. People endure not only because they can, but because they choose to. A city without purpose becomes hollow, no matter how advanced its systems. Meaning comes from culture, from songs sung in domes, from stories told across generations, from festivals marking harvests and storms survived. It comes from children laughing, from friendships deepening, from dreams reaching outward. Meaning is what transforms settlement into civilization. You imagine a future century from now, a city spreads across valleys, domes glimmering like lanterns, tunnels winding beneath ground. Generations born here walk streets that feel ordinary yet extraordinary in origin. They no longer think of fragility daily, though it remains. Their laws, traditions, and rituals have matured. They live not as visitors but as citizens. The city endures not because fragility vanished, but because fragility became part of life. Still, longevity is never guaranteed. Cities on Earth have fallen when resources dwindled, when trust fractured, when meaning dissolved. On Mars, margins are even thinner. A city may decline if it cannot adapt to new challenges, if it isolates instead of cooperating, if it forgets the fragility that sustains it. Longevity requires vigilance, an awareness renewed with every generation. But perhaps longevity here carries a different rhythm. On Earth, cities compete, rise and fall, often at the expense of one another. On Mars, survival requires cooperation. Cities may endure longer not through dominance but through solidarity, supporting one another across distances, trading resources, sharing knowledge. Longevity is collective, not solitary. The endurance of one city strengthens the endurance of all. You reflect on the nature of time. A single human life is fragile, brief. Yet cities, when tended, can outlast lives, carrying memory forward. On Mars, longevity becomes a promise to children, a gift handed across generations. We struggled, we built, we endured, so that you might live more securely than we did. The endurance of cities becomes an inheritance, stretching like a bridge from the first settlers to the far future. And perhaps one day, when Earth looks up at Mars, it will see lights glowing faintly across the night side. Not temporary beacons, but permanent cities, enduring across decades, centuries. A planet once silent now sings with community. The longevity of cities becomes not only a triumph for Mars, but for humanity itself, proof that fragile life can anchor itself in alien soil. At night, you walk imagined streets of such a city. Domes arch overhead, glowing softly. Markets bustle, children run and laugh. Music drifts through corridors. Outside, the planet remains silent, vast, indifferent. But inside, life pulses, steady and enduring. You realize that longevity is not measured only in years, but in moments like these. In breaths taken, meals shared, stories told, hope renewed. Each moment adds to the city's life, extending it forward into time, and as you rest, you wonder, how long will they last? Decades, centuries, millennia. No answer can be certain. Yet the fact that cities endure at all, that fragile domes can glow against endless desert, is already wonder enough. Longevity is not about permanence, but about continuity, the choice to carry life forward again and again. Last lines, closing. As domes gleam like stars against red horizons, you feel calm. For whether cities last centuries or millennia, their endurance carries one truth. Life, though fragile, has found a way to belong, not only on Earth, but beneath distant skies.